And we're live. What's going on there, brother?
What's going on, sir? What's popping?
Hey, man, we making it, man. Making it. You know, we back in it one more again.
Yes,
you know
sir.
With, this deep dive into the Bantu brother Jabari debate, man. This has been fun, man. This has been fun, man.
Definitely.
I'm enjoying it, bro. I'm enjoying it. You know, I got a bone to pick with you, though, bro.
Uh-oh. What's good?
I got a bone to pick with you, man.
Uh-oh. What'd I do? I'm sorry. I'll repent. I'm sorry.
So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. You know, I know we're about to get into some dope stuff. We're gonna dig into this Bantu round or whatever. My concern is this, though.
Yes, sir.
On your channel, saying for the last session we had, saying we was on BK Apologist channel, breaking down Jabari's round 3. There were so many unexpected bars. My concern is there's not gonna be nothing left over. I'm saying now that you're on my channel, I feel like you might be barred out.
Nah, you never know, man. Nah, man.
Yeah, so I'm feeling kind of some kind of way about that.
No, we're gonna allow inspiration to take over, and I'm sure some amazing things will occur.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm just saying, man, because that last joint, boy,
that was dope.
Oh snap! We got a urban legend in the building. You know what I'm saying, we got Nefertiti out there.
Oh, what up, sis? What's good?
What's happening with you? You know what I'm saying, she's a legend in the community, man.
Yes, sir.
Y'all know what it is, man. Got my man MJ Jackson. You know what I'm saying, in the building. Now MJ's not playing around, man. We was a couple minutes late. We was about 2 minutes late on that CP time. And MJ hit me up at like 10:01. I'm saying he was not playing. He's like, where y'all at? You know what I'm saying? He was not playing at all. What up, Nate? What's going on, bro? What's happening with you, bro? You know, Nate be faithful out here, man. He be on Vocab Malone's channel. He be out here with ours, man. I don't know. I gotta enlist his services as a moderator, man, because I don't have any moderators.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how to do that, man. That's new to me.
I have no idea. Man. I'm recruiting you, Nate. I'm recruiting you for the moderator squad. My man Tim Allison in the building. Was good. Pastor Tim Allison from Reconcile Church out there in Bloomington, Illinois. Y'all be on the lookout, man. Y'all be on the lookout because they're gonna have the third annual. I know I mess it up. Unapologetically black, unashamedly Christian. I mess that up every time, but it's the conference at Reconcile Church. I know he's gonna get me too. I got a T-shirt and everything. I still be messing it up.
That's bad business. That's bad business.
Yeah, man. He's probably gonna mark me off the. I'm supposed to be speaking there again this year, but he might take me off. Left the name up, Jazzy 1234113. Okay. That's a lot of numbers there, man.
Yeah.
The mathematics. All right. What's happening with you there? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So, anyway, man, what we got here tonight, man? What we working with tonight, man? What you got, bro?
I mean, we're hitting up round 3, but this time we're going to look at our brother, and Mr. Bantu. And we're going to really just break down what he was doing and just, highlight a couple key points and, elaborate, Timmy got you. He got you.
He made sure. Unapologetically black, unashamedly Christian. There we go.
Bruh. Get it together. Tighten up.
Faces. Tighten up, man. My bad, bro. My bad. Appreciate you, though, man. Appreciate you. So, yeah, man. I guess we'll go ahead and get into, round 3 of Bantu. Was in the building. Shout out. What's going on with you? Like I said, both. Well, actually, I'll save my commentary for once we kind of dig into it. But if you're ready, man, we can dive right into the video.
Yeah, let's get it.
Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. And from the time that we first started this series to now, I'm still no faster at sharing my screen than I have been, from the beginning. So I'm doing the best I can with it. We'll see what's happening. Rox B in the building. What's happening with you? Good to see you out here. All right. So you good? Can you see my? Can you see?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, here we go. This is the beginning of Bantu's round 3.
All right. Home stretch. Well, thank you, Brother Jabari. If it's okay, I'm going to make a presentation, but then also slip a few questions just because I understand. I think I'll have the final rebuttal, so I want to be able to slip in some opportunities to respond even now that you can add into your rebuttal preemptively. But thank you so much. I agree with so
man.
much.
You know what's crazy, man? Like I'm actually gonna stop it already, bro. I mean, it's crazy as it sounds. It was like 5 seconds in. But you know, I just want to make a quick point that I don't know if we've actually covered yet.
What's up?
So this may sound insignificant, but understanding debate format is so crucial. You know what I'm saying? It's so crucial. Like, I mean, if you listen to what he just said, you know what I'm saying, he has an awareness that, okay, I'm going, you're gonna have the last rebuttal and so on and so forth. So he's making sure that he gets everything on the table. I'm saying before he really digs in. He's cognizant of that in terms of his presentation. You know, so again, you know, as we're kind of doing this deep dive, I'm not only looking at content, but I'm also looking at, you know, strategy and just kind of, you know, how he goes about, you know, getting that content across. And so I bring that up to say is that, you know, most of us will not be in like a formal debate setting. You know what I'm saying? So we may not necessarily have to be concerned about things like that. But even in regular conversations, you know, there can be times when we may paint ourselves in the corner unnecessarily, or there might be times where we maybe take on the burden of proof unnecessarily and things of that nature that can really have an impact on how a conversation plays out, you know. So, for example, you know, one thing that I say all the time, well, not say all the time, but, you know, one thing that I've noticed is that particularly, I just, you know, I mean, I'm not trying to, you know, poke at anybody particularly, but somebody like a brother Polite, you know, I've seen a couple Christians, you know, go at him or something like that. And, you know, typically, you know, and it may not be him, but just any conscious community figure, like for whatever reason, Christians tend to enter into those conversations without being cognizant of, you know, stepping in, you know, into a minefield just based upon how you approach a particular question. Like we're always putting ourselves in a corner, you know, without making other people defend their position, and that's just a mistake off top. You know, you're not likely going to have a positive outcome. You know what I'm saying, when you do stuff like that. So just kind of taking note of those kind of things in a conversation, even in the everyday conversation, can really impact outcomes, and it's just really something to think about.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's important that if you're going to engage in this type of conversation, both parties have to understand what exactly is the subject matter of that particular conversation. Because what tends to happen is once you start engaging and you're actually getting the better of the other individual, they will change topic. Or they do the 5,000 daggers at you, and if you can't block all of them, then somehow they walk away with a victory. Right? So it's important to frame the conversation. Okay, what are we talking about? Okay, if we're talking about that, what does that mean? Okay, what's your position? All right, let's go.
There you go. I give you a perfect example. So people will say, and I've seen, I don't know, I keep, you know, bringing them up, but I mean, I just as an example, like Brother Polite or any number of other conscious community people, I've seen situations where start the conversation, but like, all right, you got to prove to me that your God exists, or prove to me the Bible is true, prove to me that Jesus existed. You know what I'm saying? You know, they set that as being the objective of the conversation. Now the problem is that regardless of what evidence you bring up, regardless, you could hit them with 5,000-10,000 daggers. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, they could just be like, nah. And that's the end of the conversation. Oh, you didn't prove to me, right, you know what I'm saying, that such and such is the case, and therefore I'm winning this conversation. You know what I'm saying, like, and we just do that far too often, man. We do that far too often to where we allow other people to sit back and play counterpuncher. You know what I'm saying, we take on all the burden of proof. Right. But at the end of the day, Christians aren't the only ones making truth claims about the world. You know what I'm saying? Any worldview, you know what I'm saying, that people want to have taken seriously is going to have to answer certain fundamental questions about reality, how things actually are. Christians aren't the only ones making truth claims.
And honestly, if you want to know if a worldview is even worthy of your attention, one of the ways to find that out is, can you defend your worldview, right? Because like in sports, you know, offense wins games, but defense wins championships. Okay. You know, everybody looks incredibly brilliant when they ask questions. But when you can answer the question, that's when we know that you know what you're talking about. Right. So
exactly. So I just want to kind of throw that out there, man. You know, again, you know, we're just kind of looking at everything from A to Z.
Yes, sir.
You know, seeing what kind of lessons we can glean from it. That's just something that kind of popped in my mind. But let me get back into it here. All 3 seconds of his presentation will be covered.
Unintentional bars, yeah.
Unintentional bars, yeah.
The need for us to work together, and pretty much most of the things you had to say about various Kemetic movements and the positive things they bring to our community is things that I've seen and experienced and appreciated as well. So with this last, portion about, Bisrat or Kemet, who has the answer for Black America? I'd like to take this again. I kind of like to present some information, and again weave some questions to lay out throughout in 2 particular ways. And what I don't want to do though is, and it's because of my particular hymenot, which Meacham School of Hymenot is like theology. And so this is an Ethiopian word for theology as well. So we use that. And my particular hymenot of the scriptures as it relates to kind of the Lord's plan for us in this world is not one of triumphalism, because the Yeshua that I believe in is one that told me that foxes have holes, but the Son of Man doesn't have a place to lay his head, and that we can actually expect persecution in this world. And one of the reasons that I find the Bisrat, the gospel of Yeshua, so compelling, and not only the answer for Black America, but for the world, for everybody, there's a lot of reasons I could give, and we only got 20 minutes. One of the main reasons I want to do is actually that it best prepares us and enables us and empowers us to be witnesses of a kingdom, of God's kingdom on this earth, even while we have already seen it come to fruition in the person of Jesus Christ, and yet it is not completely it's already present, but it's not finished yet at the same time. And we live in a world where there's brokenness and evil and darkness all around us. And I, again, my particular hymenot is not one of triumphalism, where I could point to the fact that the Black church is still the greatest source of civil engagement and organization, and source of hospitals and HBCUs and schools, eclipsing all other religious faiths combined in the Black community. And it has been that ever since the beginning of Black history in America, that it is still the organization in each Black community that makes a bigger impact across the Black community in various different ways. And that's not to not acknowledge the great contributions that other faiths have made. But as Brother pointed out earlier, 8 in 10 of us are Christians, and so it's made a bigger impact. But I don't want to actually argue from that perspective, because again,
clarity. I don't think those notification sounds. I don't think that's me. I think that's in the actual.
That's the video. That's the actual video.
Yeah, let me just clarify.
That's the video. That's not us.
I was about to stop it there anyway, but
it's funny.
Yeah, I got my alerts all the way down. So I'm just saying.
No, it's the video. It's the video. No, it's the video. It's the video. It's not you.
Yeah.
And now, like, after rewatching this, I don't think he meant to be slick, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because he's like, I don't really want to talk about all the great things that the church did. Like, for instance,
yeah.
And even you yourself said that,
Right,
so,
right.
But that's not what I want to do today.
right.
So it's like he kind of indirectly did. And
he did.
He actually did, right? And because we was there, and they were complaining that he wasn't on topic. He actually was. He really was, because he just didn't do it the way maybe me and you would have done it, right? Because I would have went with it. Honestly, I would have went with the triumphalism. I really would. Right. I would have hit him with the data.
Tell him why you're here.
I would have hit him with the data. It's like, look at all the institutions we've created. Look at all the things that are implemented because of the gospel. And you can't deny it because it's facts, it's history. Forget theology. Forget if Jesus is fictional or not. Look at what we did for the last 2,000 years, and you can hold that, right? So, but what's interesting, right? We saw in Jabari's round, he acquiesces the entire round, right? He says, I want to partner with you. Right. You don't partner with people if they don't think they have the answers, right? If Adam Coleman worshiped a head of lettuce named Ralph, and he said that celery was his savior, I know that you don't have answers. So I'm not going to partner with you, right?
Right.
I'm only going to partner with people who I believe are beneficial to what I'm trying to accomplish. So the very fact that you said we need to partner with you, you're acquiescing. And Bantu is saying, well, since you acquiesce, yes, we both agree that the Black church did what it did, right? And it's still doing it, right? Okay, now, and then he decides to zero in one particular aspect of our theology that definitely helps oppress people.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Sure.
So he addressed the whole. He slipped in a little of the triumphalism.
He said,
right? He put it in.
Yeah, right, exactly. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna say real quick something that I hinted at, or I might have talked about it more at length last time, but I think it's worth mentioning here. I think this round for most people, and hear me out, folks, because it's gonna sound bad at first. You know what I'm saying? But just kind of hear where I'm coming from. I think this round was, in terms of how each of the debaters approached it, was probably the most disappointing for the onlookers. I'm saying, for the crowd. But I think that both sides approached it the question correctly. You know what I'm saying? It's just outside of what people anticipated. See, people thought there was going to be, basically our stat sheet against their stat sheet. I'm saying, what have we done versus what have you done, kind of a thing. Or they thought it was going to be, I'm going to give you this itemized list of the steps that we need to take. I'm saying, politically, economically, and so forth. I'm saying, like, that flow from my worldview. I'm going to give you these steps that's going to put our community in a better position in this world. That's really what what I think most people anticipated from this round, but neither side answered it that way.
Right.
Both of them made an attempt to get at what they believe to be the issues that are more fundamental. I'm saying that, in other words, everything, when we talk about when we think about an itemized list of what we're going to do economically, politically, right, so on and so forth, those things are step B. But before you get to step B, you got to get the fundamentals. You got to get step A. You know what I'm saying? So you can't get to B before you get to A. It's just like sports. You know what I'm saying? You can have a guy who's just phenomenal, off the charts athletically. You know what I'm saying? I'll just take basketball, for example. He can jump out the gym. You know what I mean? He can just, do all kind of amazing things.
Right.
If his fundamentals aren't right, then eventually it's going to catch up with him. You know what I'm saying? I remember, I guess it's been some years ago now, but I was watching this interview with Bernard Hopkins, who's a boxer from Philly, I think, as a matter of fact. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of like towards, he's like 40 something and he's still getting it in the ring, and they were asking him, because by this point, Roy Jones, who in his day was a monster, you know what I'm saying, in the ring. But by this point, he was getting knocked out, it seemed like every 5 seconds. And so they were asking Bernard Hopkins, like, how is it that you're able to still do what you do, but Roy Jones is not having success, even in the same age bracket? And what Bernard Hopkins said is that it's fundamentals. You know what I'm saying? It's like all that bobbing and weaving and showboating, all that kind of stuff, like that works when you're like 22. You know what I'm saying? And you're physically, in better shape than your opponent. The reaction time is that of a 20-year-old. But once you get around 40 and you lose a step, you got to rely on the fundamentals. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't have those fundamentals, it's going to catch up with you eventually. And so I think both sides are addressing the question, getting at that fundamental, that foundational level, and trying to answer the question there before moving on to some of the itemized things. However, with that being said, I'm saying, I think that even if they had gone the other route, it's a win-win situation, because the reality is, as Bantu just said, fam, like the Black church specifically has been getting it in for our community for like a minute, bro. I got sources right now. I'm trying to see if it's on my. I feel like I do this every session, but it's like every time I'm looking for a particular book on my shelf, it's never there. It's a particular one I'm looking for, where a guy breaks down how, even going back to the 1800s, you've already got the Black church, you know what I'm saying, staging boycotts, you know what I'm saying, of cotton and things like that. They're already playing a role, as the Underground Railroad comes about. You have Black churches in the North, figures like J.W. Le Guin. Of course, people saw the Harriet movie. Richard Allen, all sorts of, Black clergy participating in, the Underground Railroad. You've already got, before, I'm talking about before the MLKs, before the Abernathys and the civil rights, and I call it the late civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying? Because most people think about the civil rights movement like 50s and 60s. You had people, way before that, you know what I'm saying, of the Christian tradition getting it in for our community. So, it's not like, when it comes to Comedicism, it's like, fam, you can't be this Johnny come lately, worldview and knock us off our square. We've been getting it in. You know what I'm saying? We've been getting it in. Another thing I'm gonna say about that too is that a lot of people, I'm gonna just make this quick, but a lot of people want to point to, say, the post-civil rights era, you know what I'm saying, if we can call it that, and say, oh, well, where has the church been? Fam, I'm telling you right now, as a social worker, if I have somebody come into my office saying, hey, we're behind on our rent, we need food, we need clothes, we need this, that, and third, I can go to my well, we don't have, telephone books or whatever, but I can go to my list of contacts, and find a Black church in their locality that's able to give those types of things and is willing to do so. You would be hard pressed to find a Kemetic temple out here, that's out here doing something like that, or a Hebrew Israelite congregation, or a Moorish Science temple. I get, if somebody put a gun in my head and said, hey, look, I need you to find me a Moorish Science temple or a Kemetic temple in your area that's putting in work like that, I'd be a dead man. It'd be a wrap. You know what I'm saying? But
I only know of maybe one Hebrew association that's actually doing anything like that, to be honest with you.
Right.
I know of one.
Right.
There could be others, I'm not saying that there's only one, but there is one. There is one. I know Divine Prospect, he does some work as well. Okay. He does. But I don't know anybody else.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. You'd be hard pressed.
I don't know anybody else.
I'm not going to make an absolute statement and say none of this. I'm not omniscient. But what I can say is that we talk about, what's prevalent. I can throw a rock out of my window right now and hit a Black church. I'm saying that'll help some folks out. That's just a fact of the matter. And we say, and it's not just about giving people stuff. We talk about on the job training. We talk about reentry programs. Right. And again, as a social worker, when I was in Richmond, I was getting my degree at VCU, and I was interning for different programs and things of that nature. I was able to witness firsthand reentry programs. You know what I'm saying, in which the church had a hand, where you had people who are coming home, haven't been down for a while, who can't find employment, don't have anywhere to go. You know what I'm saying, and we're able to, through the Black church, receive trainings and things that my grandfather was teaching Bible classes in a local prison until he was like 75, 80 years old. You know what I'm saying? And when people would get out, there would be times when he would be able to refer them to a local church where they would be able to help them out with a job and things of that nature. I mean, we would be remiss to talk about, how many college funds, right, have been funneled through the church. How many colleges? I'm saying, how many historically black colleges?
Bro, a day doesn't go by when I scroll down my timeline and I don't see an article about a Black church like either giving a scholarship or paying off college debt or on the job training, or they have this real estate program. It's like constantly. Of
course.
So
man, I was talking about my granddad. Now I think about it, just kind of jogged my memory, right? So a couple months ago, fortunately he's still living, he's still with us, and I just like to pick his brain about stuff. I like to hear him talk about the old days. This is a gentleman who was at the March on Washington. Received a letter from Martin Luther King himself, requesting his assistance in terms of organizing, because that's how Dr. King would do. He would work with the local churches, right? And then my granddad was a head usher, and so he was involved in that. So this is a guy who was part of the movement, you know what I'm saying? And he was talking about, and I can't even remember what the subject was, but he was like, when you have somebody like a Thurgood Marshall, for example, who had a case that he was had to try and was doing something for civil rights movement, they would go to the church, you know what I'm saying, and the man be like, look, y'all know what it is. We got Thurgood Marshall out here. He's fighting for us, but he got to eat. I'm saying he needs some money to sustain him and his family or what have you. I'm saying during this time that he's preparing for this case, and then they would pass the plate around. Conscious community always talking about churches passing the plate around in some negative way, but in this instance, for these civil rights movements and things like that, they pass the plate around, collect money to fund things like Thurgood Marshall, while he's preparing for this or that trial or whatever the need may be. So talking about the Black church, you can't. Anything that you do today, let's just take it a whole different direction, right? whatever successes you have, whether you're comedic, Hebrew Israelite, whatever you want to do, you know what I'm saying? Whatever economic success we end up having, or you bring about, or political success, whatever it may be, it's going to be an outworking of what the Black church achieved back in the day during abolition, civil rights, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, you still got to pay homage to those who made it even possible for you to do what it is that, you know, whatever it is that you put your hand to today. You know what I'm saying? So one way or the other, you know what I'm saying, there's so many different ways we can talk about it. So yeah, I mean, you know, Bantu, I think he approached it the right way. I agree that, you know, we need to look at the foundational things first. And there's some other points that I want to make there too, but I don't want to like talk too long all in one segment. But you know, but I agree with him in terms of going to the foundational things first. But when it comes to you know, the triumphalism part, he could have went that route too. And it's like you have this embarrassment of riches, so to speak, of the stat.
He kind of infers that, right? Like, well, me and you both know what we've done, so let's go somewhere else now.
Right, you already know what it is.
Basically, that's what very politely, that's what he said. You already know what it is.
Right.
So why are we even doing this? Let's move on now.
We got numbers on the board.
Basically.
It is what it is.
Right.
So, you know, what are you going to do about it?
We're the New York Yankees over here. We got 27 championships.
Right.
We're crushing it.
Right. So, I'm really, you know, I'm resisting making a Dallas Cowboy fans joke right now, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But you know, before we move on though, just, you know, what I'm thinking about it. One thing that was subtle that I think Bantu brought up that probably should get some attention is when he talks about his theological perspective. I think he used the word, you know, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but it starts with an H. Hermeneut. Yeah, I think that's right. Matter of fact, Tim Allison, he's in the chat. He should know that because he's part of the Meacham School. So if you know what that is, go ahead and Hymeneut maybe.
Hymeneut. Yeah. Hymeneut.
Tim Allison, you can type that in the chat. That'd be helpful. But so he talks about basically, I guess it's his school of thought or his theological perspective. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't approach the I guess the way that he conceptualized the kingdom and what God is doing on earth now from a triumphalist perspective. Now, there's a lot of history behind that. You know, that so for example, and actually he mentions this, I want to say in round no, actually it might be even later on this round. You know what I'm saying, but that being said, you know, there are differing perspectives as to this church age, if you will, and what things are supposed to look like. You know, you have the Bantu perspective, you know what I'm saying, which actually I agree with, you know what I'm saying, that ultimately the outcomes in this world are not guaranteed necessarily, you know what I'm saying? Like in the sense that, ultimately God is working towards our good, you know what I'm saying? Certainly that is the case, but, you know, we don't believe in some sort of prosperity gospelish type of thing where everything's supposed to turn out for our good, or that we will be on top in any given situation, you know what I'm saying, you know, politically or economically, so on and so forth. No, I mean, suffering in a redemptive sense is part of the biblical narrative. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Jesus said that my kingdom is not of this world, or else my disciples would fight or my followers would fight for me. I mean, and so in other words, you know, we don't subscribe to this notion that say geopolitical or economic
imperialistic,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, the kingdom is something transcendent. Right. It has an intersection. It interfaces with the natural world. Right. You know what I'm saying? But it is not like one and the same, such that we should always expect to be on top in any given political, you know, structure or economic.
It takes those type of familiar motifs and subverts them, right? And that's kind of what he's doing. Like, we are part of a kingdom, right? We are, quote unquote, soldiers of Christ, right? But it's not in the way that the world defines warfare, right? So it's constantly turning these motifs and putting it upside down. You know, I was able to talk about Ephesians 6 this past Sunday at my church, and the whole idea of wearing armor, you think offense, but that's not what Paul's talking about, right? Because he's talking about standing, and after you've done all you can to stand. So he's talking about defense, right? So he's subverting the idea of the warrior as we're attacking. Like, no, we're defending. And I think that's the same vein in which, you know, Dr. Bantu is trying to, he's subverting these ideas of kingdom and conquest and using them in a much different manner, you know. So
yeah, and and let's be unclear. Now I'm going to kind of bring it around to, you know, white man's religion type of theme here that was addressed in the first round. What he's describing in terms of what he holds to is the opposite of what Jabari would describe as being the white man's religion. Now, here's why I say that. So, and I think actually Bantu says it, I want to say in this round, where this idea of Christian triumphalism, you know, in a natural sense, you know what I'm saying, is, and I think it's probably right, would have been foreign, you know, to the body of believers for like the first, you know, 3 or 4 centuries of the church. I'm saying, because you have these periods intermittently where you got this persecution, and even in the lighter end of that persecution is still, you know, this is Christians are an ostracized group of people. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you got in the first or second century, it would have been unimaginable to somebody that, oh yeah, what the scripture is saying is we need to be record shop and taken over. You know what I'm saying? Point blank. Now, what happens is with Constantine, you know, where Christianity is legalized, and eventually under Theodosius, you know, eventually it becomes, you know, the state religion. Now you've got a dynamic where the relationship between the church and the political structure of the world is now it's not the same. I mean, it needs to be reevaluated.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, we're not the outsiders anymore that are being stoned, killed, fed to the lions. Where do we stand in relation to the world now? And so actually it's out of that it's that you find you know, Augustine writing his work, oh man, I'm messing it up now. I talk about this all the time. Not Confessions, it's the other one. Dang, I don't know why I'm messing this up.
City of God.
City of God. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. So it's out of that Augustine is writing City of God, where he's basically saying, like, look, you know, the church is over here, you know, and it's in the world, and then you have, you know, the world, you're saying, over there, right. And they have to interact with each other because they're on the same physical plane. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're in the same space. We're not called to be hermits. Right. So, you know, you're in the world and not of it. So if there's this necessary interaction between the two, what does that interaction look like? And so essentially Augustine, you know, is like, okay, well, in all things spiritual, you know, so to speak, in all things in terms of God's revelation and what he's doing in the earth, you know, the church is preeminent. And then, you know, the Roman emperors and so on and so forth, they're supposed to handle the civil duties. I'm saying, making sure everything is squared away over there, but they don't have authority over the church. And the church has, you know, limited, if any, you know what I'm saying, direct, you know, authority in the world, so to speak. Right. You know, you got to keep those lines clear, right? And so that gets, you know, echoed in also Pope Gelasius the first, duo sunt. You know what I'm saying? He kind of articulates the same thing, and that becomes the model. Now, fast forwarding, you know, as you have the development of the more modern West, the more modern Western Europe, rather. And I'm talking about the areas where you have Anglo-Saxons, the French, the Germans, so on and so forth. You have a guy named Charlemagne who comes along, and he's a big fan of Augustine. I'm saying he's all up in Augustine's works, and he takes on this idea as as a ruler trying to impose himself on Western Europe, that he's kind of the sword of the church, so to speak. He's the guy who's supposed to exercise this civil authority to bring order, and at the same time allow the church to piggyback on him, you know, in order to, you know, spread Christianity. And basically the lines begin to get blurred, I'm saying, particularly under Charlemagne, where, you know, there's this unhealthy marriage between church power and power of the world. You know what I mean? And so that's where you get this idea that the kingdom of God, you know what I'm saying, is in some way one and the same with the geopolitical power of this world. So Europe becomes this notion of Christendom. I'm saying, like, the geopolitical space of Western Europe is thought to be one and the same as, you know, the kingdom of God in some really, you know, deep sense. And so it's out of that you have this then merging of imperialism, subjugation, and things of that nature being, you know, hand in hand with what's going on with the church. And out of that's where the transatlantic slave trade comes from, and, you know, the Catholic involvement in that, and these lines are blurred between the church and the world, and ultimately it sullies the reputation of the church. And that's where where we kind of get this white man's religion stuff. I'm saying it kind of flows out of that misunderstanding of what the relationship is supposed to be like between the world and the church. So he's saying, I'm not down with it. I'm saying Bantu is saying that's not how we get down. I'm saying we don't subscribe to the kind of view of where the church stands in relation to the world, you know, and we don't view it in a way that would lend itself towards the types of abuses that came from that theological misunderstanding of where the church stands in relation to the world.
Right. I mean, we definitely have a different perspective when it comes to power dynamics, right? Because the whole letter to the church in Ephesus is about that. It's about how we internally deal with power dynamics, whether it's Jew or Gentile, right? It talks about husband and wife in Ephesians, right? It talks about parents and children and master and servants, right? We had all those individuals in the church in Ephesus. Mm-hmm. All right, we have these titles, but we're no longer of the world, but we're in the world. So how do we maneuver with our identities as sanctified people, right? So it's a different perspective on power and how one deals with it or not.
Right. And again, the position that he articulates in terms of where Christians stand in relation to power and how we are to, you know, to handle that, the position that Bantu is articulating is literally like the polar opposite to the misinterpretation, I would say, I'm saying, of where Christians stand in relation to power that morphed into what Jabari would recognize as being white man's religion. I'm saying, so even this point right here, it's very subtle, but I think it was very important to note, because even this position right here undermines this notion that Christianity is the white man's religion. He just, like, you know, again, Bantu just articulated a theological point that would not coincide with that. So I just wanted to, you know, make sure I cover that right quick.
Yeah. So I think we flap our gums enough.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, I mean, this is the deep dive, though. This is true. This is what we're here for. You know what I'm saying? And yeah. All right, let's keep moving.
To be a Nasrawi in this world is not one of triumphalism, not one that measures the truth of our faith by how much practical, success from a worldly standpoint we can have. Because actually, the Bible teaches us that we can expect persecution and we can expect difficult things. And so I don't want to appeal to Bisrat. I don't want to appeal to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on the basis that it will make everything better, because it may not necessarily do that. Again, even though I could argue that, because again, the Black church has made more impact in physical, tangible ways than any other Black religion in this country. But the one I want to appeal to specifically is the theology that it allows us to. Empowers us to go throughout this world, again, with empowerment. And I would argue specifically that the Bisrat, especially as it has been practiced among African people, those of us from the continent and the diaspora for 2,000 years, has more than other religious traditions given us a sense of cultural identity and given us a voice of resistance to the various oppressions that we have and still are actually facing. That it has done that from the beginning. I want to show that from an ancient and a modern standpoint. Again, one of the things that I want to point out is that in the ancient world, especially as I pointed out at the beginning, in the Roman Empire and even in Mesopotamia and the Levant, there was definitely instances of anti-Blackness and anti-Black racism and sentiment and a disparaging of dark skin. And we even see that in the Bible, where Moses' sister is disparaging his wife because she's Black. And you actually see God punish her because of that. And so we see in the scriptures, and probably most pointedly in the Song of Songs 1:5 and 7, where the Bride of Solomon is she's talking about her skin color and esteeming it, and actually rebuking and putting down colorism or any kind of disparaging of dark skin by saying, I am dark yet beautiful, daughters of Jerusalem. Do not stare at me because I am dark. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends? The Bible itself actually esteems Blackness. And one interesting thing is the fact that Black skin is the only skin color that is specifically highlighted in the Bible. You will not see any other people group or any other racial group where their skin color is particularly pointed out. You don't see people talking about, kind of Middle Eastern or Persian or Greco-Roman or any other ethnic groups, but it's only with Black people. Only with Ethiopians, only with people of African descent, which again, that means Black, is skin color particularly pointed out. And it's done so in a positive way. saying that this is a good thing. And again, these are depictions of ancient Ethiopian manuscripts. This particular book is from the.
I'm gonna pause it right there, right quick. You know, we'll get back to it. You know, again, I feel like just for my own sake, I gotta say, you know, the those like computer sounds, it's not me. It's the actual video. You know what I mean? Like I've been insecure. Yeah, I'm feeling real insecure over here. Now the baby you heard from the background, that was us. I see Nate said poor baby. Yeah, that was us. You know what I'm saying, but as far as the computer sounds, I got nothing to do with that. That's on the actual video. You know what I mean? So you know, with that being said, I mean he covered quite a few things. Now it's interesting. He talks about with Moses and his you know, sister-in-law or whatever, sister or whatever it is, you know, having something to say, you know, about Moses, you know, marrying a black woman, you know what I'm saying, and being with a sister, you know what I'm saying, so to speak. She felt some kind of way about that, right? And then, you know, God takes action. You know, God's like, okay, cool. If it's like that, I'm saying you about to get this work. I'm saying he judged her for that, right? And again, you know, he talks about these other passages where, you know, black skin is mentioned in a positive light. Now, what I find interesting, this just kind of just shows the bias of people. Like, why is that never talked about amongst, like, you know, your conscious community, comedics, and so on and so forth? You know what I'm saying? You never hear that side. I'm saying, I mean, that's in the Bible too. I mean, you got all these Bible scholars supposedly, you know, got something to say. You know what I mean? But how come these aspects, you know, never come out? It's in the same Bible, right? You know, so I just find that interesting. You know what I'm saying, like, it didn't take a scholar to find these kinds of things. Hopefully, just once I got to close this door. I'm gonna let you rock for real quick. I got to close the door. Got a baby.
Yeah, I mean, I think right because he gave a very quick general understanding that the black church has been and will be and continues to be a very effective instrument when it comes to the upliftment and the empowerment of people of color, right? So he decided now to pick and zero in specifically on one aspect of the gospel, right, that has empowered us, and that is the ability to resist, right? From very beginning, we have resisted the oppression, you know, various oppressions, you know. Me being the Star Wars fan that I am, I always think of the Rebel Alliance, right, versus the evil empire, right? So no matter how dramatic and how draconian life can be, there's always a remnant of believers, right? The Rebel Alliance, who are empowered by the gospel to be able to resist and to thrive while resisting. So,
right. Interesting. So. Man, Beach as well said something very interesting. I might touch on it in just a second, but it makes a very good point. But you know, kind of going back, I just want to, you know, kind of go back for just 1 second, you know, talking about, you know, the whole color thing, just real quick. I had somebody hit me up, and I'm not sure. I guess, you know, sometimes it seems like maybe in the conscious community, a particular argument would just kind of be making the rounds, you know what I mean? And it just everybody is repeating it for whatever reason. But I know for a while, this whole thing about well, I guess it's not just the conscious community. I mean, kind of maybe extends beyond it, but this notion that blackness is used metaphorically as being like evil, you know what I'm saying, in the scriptures. And, you know, therefore it's like this subtle message that, you know, blackness is evil and wrong and so on and so forth. I mean, you hear that from guys all the time. But one thing a point I raised really was the Holy Spirit, because I hadn't really thought about it prior to that conversation, you know, but really when you think about the Old Testament, you know, certainly one of the most prominent expressions of sin and representations of sin is leprosy, you know, and leprosy, you know, is certainly has, you know, is described, you know, with the whitening of the skin. I mean, that was, you know, if you're leprous, you have this, I guess, albino thing going on. I'm not a doctor, you know what I mean, but you have this, you know, noticeable whitening of the skin, you know what I'm saying? And so, and sometimes it's mentioned that way. Right. So when we think about a real condition that's used to, in a metaphorical sense, highlight, you know, sin, actually whiteness, you know what I'm saying, is used in that manner as well. Now, am I saying that white people are, sinful, blah, blah, blah? No, I'm just saying that the Bible uses various different methods to communicate the condition of man, and it's not the case as contrary to what these conscious community folks would have you believe. It's not the case that blackness is the go-to for how the Bible does so. Right. And we need to, really debunk that. Now, real quick, I just want to, make a point. Beatrice Wells brought up dealing with the approaches to power, and where Christians stand in relation to that. She said something about she wished that was emphasized or challenged more, rather, in our Western political climate. Much too often, the evangelical church, I'm just going to show it. The evangelical church promotes that it is that this is how it should be, and I think that's a great point. That's a great point. How our theological stance on these things definitely has implications for how we live our lives and how we engage in the world, right? And so I say it all the time, and I'm not, I say it all the time to friends. I'm not ashamed to say it publicly, but for example, secular conservatism, or the conservative side of the political arena, is not the political extension of God's kingdom. It's not the political extension of the church. It is not a compartment of the ecclesia. You know what I'm saying? Now, am I saying that somebody is wrong for voting along conservative lines? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that whether you be Democrat or Republican, or if you want to render it differently, progressive, conservative, liberal, conservative, whatever, we have to understand that we always ought to be making a clear delineation, between our political persuasion and who we are in Christ. And as long as we keep those things in the right place, then our Christianity should be guiding all this other stuff that we're engaged in, so that we can rightfully engage in it. It shouldn't be the other way around.
Right. And being able to discern, and you made this point at the very beginning of these videos that me and you have been doing, that there's a difference between people who call themselves Christians and Christianity. Right? Christianity is the state of being like Messiah. Mm-hmm. If someone is acting out of pocket, that is not Christianity. I don't care if they call themselves bishop, elder, whatever. If they're not acting within the parameters of being like Messiah, that is not Christianity. And what happened is the mainstream has allowed white supremacy to operate under the guise of quote unquote Christianity. But once you understand what Christianity really is, and then you look at what they're doing, there is a clear distinction between the two. And I think us as followers, just by our example, will help clear and make that that line very clear in distinction.
Absolutely, man. It's good to better, man. All right, cool. You want to get back to the video?
Let's go.
All right.
Again, the Black and the proudly African features that are depicted in Ethiopian iconography, where you have Jesus and Mary and angels and apostles that are all drawn proudly with African features, right? The idea of this white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus that looks like Thor or like Captain Jack Sparrow is completely foreign to this world. And yes, it is an image that has been used for oppression for a long time. But as I've said multiple times today, that is not the particular expression of Christianity that is biblical or that I ascribe to. But there is this tradition, and I have to push back a bit on the comment that was made earlier, where it says, where I'm sharing with you all today an ancient term called bisrat. Let's say it one more time, bisrat. It's okay to pronounce that because that is actually your ancestry. That is the only African languages that has its own writing system that is still alive today. Whereas most people on the continent, unfortunately, use European writing systems. So it's deeply lamentable to me to have a pushback be that nobody calls it that. Why doesn't anybody call it that? Because white supremacy is so extensive. But that is completely inaccurate because, as I said, this is an ancient term that you can find in text that goes back to the 4th century, when again, Ethiopia freely embraced Christianity as its dominant state religion. This is not a new thing. I'm not telling you guys a new word today. And so, in fact, the fact that nobody says it is actually part of the problem. But I think a lot of my Kemetic brothers and sisters would understand that part of what it means, and I appreciate the ways that you are doing this for a lot of our people in our communities, going back and reclaiming. But then we can't then disparage and say, well, nobody calls it that. So then therefore we say, actually, there is a Christian nation that's been Christian for 1,700 years that's been using that word, and it's in ancient manuscripts. Not only that, but not only in Ethiopia, when you look at...
All right.
That was pretty devastating.
Yeah, that was tough.
That was really, that was a hard bar.
Yeah.
You know, grown men bars is something you have to deal with. You know what I mean? And because again, and even though that's not the point of this particular round, but one of the accusations is that Christianity came and wiped away African culture. Right? Here is an example of Christianity actually preserving African culture. He said it's the only ancient African language that had a writing system that's still being used today. And why is it still being used? Because they use that literature to do what? To talk about the gospel. That's devastating.
Devastating.
The only one that still survives because of Christians. That's like, what do you do with that?
Just take that L. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. And what's crazy about it is, I mean, there's so many points you made there, but you know, if you go right now to, I believe it's the Blackwell Companion to African Philosophy, okay, it's put out by, I think it's Oxford Press. Anyway, if you go to that, you know what I mean, and you look at some of the names that are featured, you know what I'm saying, highlighted amongst African philosophers, you're going to find certain individuals. You're going to find Cyprian, Tertullian, Zariaco, you know what I'm saying, Christians, bro, Origin, Christians. You know what I'm saying? It's not even arguable, Augustine, you know what I'm saying? It's not even arguable that the intellectual contribution that African Christians made is just phenomenal. You know what I'm saying? And so, and when you think about, I mean, there's so many different people I can name, but I'll just leave it at that for now. But just when you think about folks who want to throw away this tradition and want to throw away this heritage, you know, all because of what some white folks did in the relatively, modern history, you know what I'm saying? And you're going to throw away near 2,000 years of African heritage and contribution just because of that. That literally right there is the whitewashing of our history. Then how is it not? I mean, Lord knows. I mean, how long have we been? Think about the Hidden Colors video. I'll just use that as an example. You know, the Hidden Colors series. You know what I'm saying? You got all these dudes. I don't know. I think they're up to like volume. So, did I mess up? Or what I do?
I'm not a fan of Hidden Colors, but go ahead.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, but that's my point, though. You know what I'm saying? It's full of pseudo scholarship. You know what I'm saying? The whole project is centered around this idea of reclaiming lost history. It's Hidden Colors, right? But the thing of it is, how do you have 4 or 5 volumes of Hidden Colors? You mean to tell me you didn't deal with Augustine? Literally, there is no thinker in human history that has had more of an impact on the Western world than Augustine. There isn't. Who has? You know what I'm saying? He's like the OG of the Western world. I mean, he's from North Africa.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They've been stealing bars from him for years. You know what I'm saying? So, bruh, like, I mean, how do you not have somebody like that? How do you not have
but you know what's also ironic? So we have some great scholars right now who are really trying to do better work deciphering the metal netter, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the keys for them to able to decipher that is by looking at the most current relatable scripts. And what are those scripts? It's Coptic and Ge'ez. You're welcome.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're welcome.
Right.
Preserved by believers. And because we preserve that, you can now go in and understand and have a better interpretation and translation of the hieroglyphics based on the preservation of these scripts by Black African Christians.
Right. I mean, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? You know what I'm saying? Perfect example. I'm just give one example, right? We're talking about intellectual history. Now, this is the stuff that they don't want to show no love to. But Tertullian, for example. Right? Now, when you deal with the issue of when you deal with the area of philosophy, okay, the whole project of philosophy is like one ongoing conversation about how the world is that spans generations, places, so on and so forth. And you have different people who make contributions to that conversation at different times, right? And so Tertullian, just kind of think of philosophy that way. So Tertullian, when he's writing his works on the Trinity, little do people know his works in terms of how he renders this notion of personhood and what it means to be a person. Okay, his thoughts actually rippled up throughout the Western world, and it had to and influence how laws are framed, this notion of rights, and all these sorts of things. You know what I'm saying this notion of personhood largely draws from Tertullian's works. You know what I'm saying so. Right. So the same laws that our African ancestors here in the Western world, you know what I'm saying, were able to appeal to, the same concepts that we were able to appeal to in order to secure our freedom. Some of those, the ones that having to do with personhood and how we understand what it means to be a person, flow from Tertullian's work all the way back in North Africa, you know, over a millennia ago. You see what I'm saying? So like this idea, you know, of we're just going to cast off, you know what I'm saying, you know, all this history and all this heritage, you know, bump being a Christian because the white man, fam, do you understand what you're throwing away? Do you understand that? It's crazy. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me, man. So,
but again, to Bantu's point, the reason why I feel like they're not attracted to that because there's a lack of triumphalism in these things. Because when you look at these same amazing melanated minds, what are they saying? Well, all glory goes to God. I got all this from God. You know, if it wasn't for his saving grace, I wouldn't know these things. It is my pursuit in walking with the Creator that I'm able to do these things. There's no puffing up the chest. There's no patting yourself on the back. There's none of that.
Right.
But when you look at, you know, at least from the surface view at ancient Kemet, all we see is some amazing narcissistic structures. Right? And it's all about I'm mighty, I'm the king, I'm the best. I got, you know, the gold laid sandals with the special little gold pieces for each toe before I even put it in the sandal. You ever seen them joints? Some joints is amazing.
No, I never seen.
Bro, you got to go to these museums. Like these dudes were chipped out. You know what I mean? It's like, but it was all about them. It's me. Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah.
So to our base nature, we are naturally attracted to those things. Whereas when it comes to the gospel, it's not about you at all. It's all about God and his influence in us. Right. So
right. Powerful, man. Powerful. You know, but yeah, here we go.
At early African history in Egypt, in North Africa and Carthage, in Nubia, and in Ethiopia, when you look at history from the time, starting from the time that Bisrat comes into these places, it's freely embraced. Nobody forces it on them. The white man does not force it on them. But these African nations freely embrace Christianity as their religion. And from that point on, the majority of literature that comes from these places is Christian in nature. It's Nazrawi. If you want to just study African history, during this time period, from the 1st century up until going forward in Egypt and in Nubia and in Axum, you will find Christian literature left and right. Whether you want to look at Ge'ez literature or Nubian literature or Coptic Egyptian literature, it's going to be predominantly Christian. Christianity, Bisrat, literally gave us languages. It gave us literature. African literature from the first up until even way before the colonial period, Christianity was synonymous with African literature. You couldn't separate the two. They went hand in hand. And not only that, but architecture as well. There was unique styles of architecture in the churches of Lalibela and in the monasteries in Dongola and all throughout Nubia and Egypt. But unique styles of Bisrat that not only were different than the dominant oppressive Roman Christianity, but also preceded it. And this is something that has given what I'm talking about, Africans, a sense of identity and pride. One example that we see of this, and another thing, this is one of my questions that I'd like to propose if you could speak to, Brother Jabari, in your rebuttal. One thing that I haven't seen, one of the few things that I haven't seen, one of the two main things that I haven't seen, or I would like to see more response to, that I'm putting forward, that makes the idea that Christianity is a white man's religion, that it's forcing upon us, is the totality of the story, makes that claim untenable. It makes it impossible to hold to that idea, is two particular things. And one of them that I'd like you to respond to is that I haven't heard a response to, is the fact that that Nasrawi in Egypt were resisting the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire came in to Egypt and attempted to impose their own theology and literally kidnapped and murdered and tortured Egyptian Nasrawi. And so that has, I'd like to just see what in response to that fact, the fact that, again, Nasrawi were in Egypt and were being persecuted by the Roman Empire, as well as in Nubia. And this is an example of that. The life of Daniel of Scatus talks about the Roman Emperor Justinian, who is seen as kind of the dominant Byzantine emperor, and he is going throughout the Roman Empire and in Egypt and Syria and the places where black and brown people mainly live, and is enforcing Roman theology, the theology that Jesus is one person in two natures, the one that many Arabian and Syrian Egyptian Christians rejected, and was trying to enforce it. And there's an Egyptian monk named Daniel of Scatus. Scatus is in the Wadi Natrun, in Egyptian it's called Shihate, and this is the story where he talks about Justinian coming in and oppressing, saying, and it was at that time that the impious Justinian, this is the Roman emperor, became emperor, he who was polluted and terrorized the entire world and the Catholic Church in every place. He endeavored to enforce the accursed faith of the defiled Council of Chalcedon everywhere and scattered the beautiful flocks of Christ. He chased the Orthodox bishops and archbishops from their thrones, and the impious Justinian was not satisfied with this, but also disseminated the impious tome of Leo, which the impious Council of Chalcedon had accepted. He propagated it everywhere that lay under his control in order to make everyone subscribe to it. When it was brought to Egypt, a great disturbance occurred among all the Orthodox faithful who were in the land of Egypt. And it was brought to the holy mountain of Scatus in order that our holy fathers might subscribe to it. Notice all of the different parallelisms here going on, that Egypt is being presented as the source of orthodoxy and the source of a unique expression of Christianity. This makes this idea that there was this dominant Christian history that was put on people untenable, because in the 400s, there was deep strife and controversy between the churches of Egypt and the Roman Empire, where the Roman Empire was enforcing itself upon Egyptian and Syrian and Arabian Christians. So, and they were resisting it, and still do to this day. The Egyptian and Ethiopian and Armenian churches still do not have communion with the Roman Catholic Church because of this particular schism. And they preceded it. So again, this is just one of those examples. Another example that shows again.
Yeah, you can pause that.
Okay. You're on the same tip. Go ahead.
I think it was interesting that he was able to challenge him, and he actually is still on topic, because the focus of his round now that we already know about the Black Church, and Jabari also knows about the Black Church, right? He acquiesced, right? So let's focus on how the gospel empowers people of color to resist. Oh, and by the way, since we're talking about resisting, if we're resisting, how is this the Roman religion if you have, Coptic Christians or ancient Egyptian Christians resisting the Roman influence?
Yeah, it makes no sense, man. It makes zero sense. No, and here's the thing, man. Like, so to your point, and he did clarify again, because like you said, this was part of this round. He said straight up that he wanted to give an ancient example and a modern example of resistance. And so right now he's covering the ancient example, right. And it just deals with this point of like, if there is something for us to resist today, which obviously there is, there's problems today, that need to be addressed. You know what I'm saying? Resisting oppression is not new to the church, particularly the Black church. Whether you want to deal modern day or ancient, resisting oppressive powers is something that's a part of the heritage of the Black church. You know what I'm saying? If we can call it that. So, that's I think it's a pretty powerful point. I'm not really sure if Jabari got it. And I got to say this too, man.
Uh-oh.
At the risk of sounding disrespectful, I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
Now let me just clarify this. I respect anybody's degree. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of those guys to be policing other people's degrees, where they got their education or what titles they hold. I could care less. You know what I'm saying? If you say you got a degree, more power to you. We need more of it in our community. I'm with that. But to me, it was points like these, okay, that really show the divide, because your boy Jabari is always claiming he's an historian. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Every 5 seconds he's telling us he's an historian. I don't care what it is, what he's talking about, some kind of way around him being a priest and a historian. I guess he's really proud of that. Fine, whatever. But I'm just being real. You know what I'm saying? Think of. I'll just put it this way. I'll put it in a nicer way than I originally was. You know what I'm saying? Think about basketball. I'm a big basketball fan. Okay, now there's a big difference between Michael Jordan, you know what I'm saying, and Bill Winnington. I'm saying, or let's say, just using a modern example. There's a big difference between LeBron James and who's out there today. I don't want to call somebody a scrub, but
but you are.
Right,
but you're going to be. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Actually, I'm not gonna name a scrub. I'll name 2 people who are decent. You know what I'm saying? LeBron James and Andrew Wiggins. You know what I'm saying? They're both players. They're both in the NBA, but we kind of know they're not in the same category, right?
They're in the same league, but they're not in the same league.
They're in the same league. They're not in the same league. You know
right.
If you say that you're a professional ball player and you're in the NBA, cool. If you say you're in the G League, I mean that's cool. I mean, compared to me, you could ball me out of the gym. But
if you are a professional NBA player, right? There's a certain level of expertise that we are going to expect from you.
That we're going to expect from you. Exactly.
When we see you on that court. Right?
Exactly.
So,
and to be honest, it's points like these where I think we started to see the divide between Vince Bantu, who is without question a legitimate historian. Like he's not. I'm not sure if I've ever even referred to himself as being that. I mean, I don't think he really throws that around, but he is. He's got a PhD. I mean, he's got all the credentials to.
He has degrees, plural. He has degrees.
EGRE degrees. So I mean, legit. I'm just sorry, man. Like when it comes to Jabari, let me be more explicit. Okay. So what I saw just now is that he called Jabari to give an account for the whole picture. Okay. This is what real historians do. Real historians don't cherry pick points of history that support a point that they're trying to make. What real historians do is if they draw out a point from the historical record, they do so in such a way that it's not disjointed or divorced from what else we know about that period of history. And then they're not just cherry picking. So when Bantu is making a claim about the Egyptian church, when he's making a claim about what's going on in Rome, he's making claims about specific instances, specific people, so on and so forth, that are true about those individuals and events, but are also reflective and take into account everything else that's going on within that historical context. He's not drawing something out, cherry picking 1 or 2 things that fit his narrative and then trying to harness that as ammunition against his opponent. That's not scholarship. I'm saying that's what Jabari was doing. I'm saying Jabari was cherry picking from different parts here and there, not taking into account the scope of what we know about those time periods, right? And just trying to, get off on it. I'm like, fam, that's not scholarship. Scholarship is you're going to draw conclusions based upon not only one particular instance, person, or event, but also the whole picture of what's going on in whatever historical context that you're dealing with. And so what Bantu is doing is saying, like, look, I want you to give an account of the whole story. That's what he said. You know what I'm saying? Give an account of the whole story. Don't just.
And I've been waiting for you to give me a whole account. I've actually been waiting this whole debate for you to give me this account.
It's for 2 rounds now.
For 2 rounds.
You've been waiting.
Right.
And so again, these are the kind of things that differentiate between somebody who's a true historian and somebody who is, has studied history and has an affinity for history, perhaps, you know what I'm saying? And maybe knows more about history than the average person, whatever. You know what I'm saying? When we're talking about somebody who's a professional, I think those are the kinds of earmarks that let me know that we're dealing with two different folks. You know what I'm saying? Two different kinds of individuals here. The other side is too, again, you know, we're 2 rounds in, the kinds of sources that are being quoted. You know what I'm saying? If you tell me that you're a historian and you quote Joseph McCabe, come on, bro. What?
I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
Come on, bro. Fam. If you tell me you're a historian,
oh man, you are.
and then you cite Wikipedia.
I see.
Come on, bro.
Why you had to go there?
I'm just being real. Man, come
no,
on,
you're
man.
right,
Bro. If in lieu of giving an actual citation, you advise people to get a bus ticket and go check out such and such, bam, give a citation, B.
That was bad.
You can't do that. You can't do
that. Was very foul.
Come on, man. Come on, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm being so serious right now. You know what I'm saying? Like the reality is there's a difference. Like, there's a historical method that needs to be accounted for. I'm saying there's a real methodology.
Yes.
Methodologies. I mean, there's different ways to go about being, historical data. You know what I'm saying? That, there's real ways, there's tried and true ways to handle the historical data that people do in order to come to conclusions about what happened in the past. And when you're quoting things like Joseph McCabe, you have the actual slides from the Zeitgeist video, the actual slides. You know what I'm saying? Like, fam, it's the actual slide.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? From the Zeitgeist video, you're telling me everything I know about your historical pedigree. You're telling me that you're not handling, the historical data in a responsible way. That's what you're telling me. I'm saying if you say to me that you're trying to make a case, this is my last example. If you say to me that you're making a case of Christianity having borrowed, from Kemet, and you want to make a point about one of the central narratives, the virgin birth and so on and so forth, and you're quoting a 6th century source. Shout out to my man MJ Jackson who broke that joint down. I'm saying on Vocab Malone's channel. But you're quoting a 6th century source to try to prove causation of a worldview that came about or matured, I'll say, flowed out of the Judaic tradition in the 1st century. Fam, 5 centuries too late, B. What are we doing right now? What are we doing right now? So I just said that, and everybody's got to be on their P's and Q's, man. These are the kind of things that you have to watch out for. Whether you're watching the debate, it's harder to do when you're in conversation with somebody because it's like in the moment. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can't necessarily catch everything, but right. In this situation, we had the benefit of being able to look at the video and see the missteps. And I think
that's why it's so important that me, you, MJ, Nefer, Vocab, that we're all addressing this so that we can hold him accountable,
right,
for what he's saying. Because like you said, he makes the claim of being knowledgeable in these affairs, but time and time again, you're coming up lacking, but that's good for him because when he steps up to any of us or anybody who's around us, he knows he can't use these same talking points anymore.
Yeah, I mean, that's done. Yeah. That's deaded right there.
So
that's over with. You know what I mean? So, and this is the thing, man. Like, just I guess they got to add some balance to it. Maybe a lesson learned is that we all have to be humble. You know what I'm saying? We all have to approach these topics with humility. Nobody's omniscient. You know what I'm saying? I say this all the time. If you ask me enough questions about any given topic or about something that I just haven't spent a lot of time on, you're going to be able to stump me on this or that and the third. I'm not omniscient. Right. And the reality is, if you're in a public platform, if you have a public platform, you're presenting to people on whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying, eventually you're going to get got. Eventually you're going to make a mistake. You're going to say something, right, that's inaccurate, or maybe upon coming, upon new information, you realize that you were inaccurate. It's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? It's happened to me before. You know what I'm saying? And so what you want to do is you want to always be humble enough to say, you know what, I got to take that L. I was mistaken about such and such, and I'll just say, I hope that, if I get cut, one of these days, where I was just dead wrong about something, I hope that I have the humility, to be able to correct that and not be, trying to duck and dodge and make light of it or get around it, but maybe that's just another lesson learned, man. We all have to these things with humility.
We all have to be equipped,
especially
absolutely.
as Christians, because
Absolutely.
the Bible does call you to that. The Bible talks about how knowledge puffs up. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be the kind of people who are gaining knowledge for without that spirit of servanthood. I'm saying and thus be puffed up in such a way that we become prideful, because nobody is benefited by that sort of thing. So
right.
Yeah.
Right. The balance between orthodoxy and orthopraxy. Right.
Good.
Watch your life and doctrine closely. So.
Right. All right. Cool.
Again, this one shows again about how the Egyptian language itself was a marker of resistance and a marker of African Egyptian pride. And for the Christians, this is when Arabic is starting to become the dominant language. And there's a monk, an Egyptian monk named Samuel of Coleman, and in his text called the Apocalypse of Samuel Coleman, this is written in the 10th century, where he is trying to encourage Egyptians to resist speaking Arabic so that they can continue to speak the Egyptian language, because the Egyptian language is considered to be one and the same with Christianity. It says they will abandon this language, meaning Coptic, to speak Arabic and to worship in it, to the point that we can no longer recognize them as Christians, but they will be taken for Berbers. Truly, I say to you, my children, that those who give up the names of saints to give their children foreign names, those who act this way will be excluded from the blessing of the saints, and anyone who dares to speak the language of the Hegira, that's another kind of phrase for Arabic, inside the temple, that one will deviate from the ordinances of our holy fathers.
Stop it for a minute.
This is written, and this is written.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that point, man. I feel like I heard that just now for like the first time.
But again, right, it's another example of the African Christian fighting to preserve African culture.
Right.
We have a Christian leader of that time in writing instructing everyone else, you better not take that foreign language. You better keep this African language. You better preserve it, because this is how we learn the gospel, with this language.
Right.
Don't call your sons and daughters their names. You stay here. You stay within the culture. That's primary evidence of a African Christian fighting and inspiring other African Christians to retain African culture. That's what you're saying right there. Primary source. It flies
in the face of Jabari's whole narrative, because remember, his whole thing is, he's claimed that Egypt, Ethiopia, Nubia, that they fell or whatever, and so on and so forth, and that the Christians are just running them up, destroying all things African, so to speak.
Right.
Because I guess whatever, but again, to your point, this flies in the face of that. I'm saying here you have a primary source of somebody saying, no, like we are preserving, this element of our culture, which, again, goes towards one of Bantu's earlier points, because he talks about how the correct biblical lens to view where we stand in relation to culture is that we redeem culture. Like we, those components of a culture, of our culture, or whatever culture you're in, that are out of step with scripture. Yeah, those are the kind of things that we don't rock with.
Right.
But anything that is, not out of step with scripture, those are the kind of things that we can
redeem.
The best stuff. We redeem it, and we can really make it more beautiful in a sense. So yeah, I think that's a pretty powerful point. Actually, I'm going to say this too. Maybe somebody can fact check me on it. But I remember, I want to say about 6-7 years ago, when I was like really just starting to get into this stuff and, wrestling with questions about, white man's religion, blah, 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 trying to get an understanding of it. I actually went to a Coptic church, here where I'm at, and I might have to just maybe another day to kind of tell that whole experience. But one thing that the priest said to me is that some of the chants that they use today, the content in terms of the words, have to do with, Christ, everything, Christian doctrine, so on and so forth. But the melodies and the melodies go back all the way to the Pharaonic period.
Wow.
I'm saying we're basically songs, I'm saying that apparently were sung, amongst just the people during the time of the pharaohs, however long ago that was, and they basically just they gave it a
remix. They gave the remix.
They remixed it.
Remix.
So there's nothing wrong with the actual melodies. I'm saying those are just notes. You know what I'm saying? So they change the content to be reflective of something that will glorify God. But the whole point is it's just so powerful. I mean, to me at the time, that was just like I was just awestruck. That you have this ancient faith, like this ancient Christianity that is so interested in retaining elements of the culture that are not contrary to the gospel.
Like the gospel doubled as a time capsule.
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting.
Like, we have the Bizrat, but we also have these other elements that we can actually redeem and put in. So as we continue the Bizrat, these things tag along with it. Right? These scripts, these languages, these melodies are also preserved as well as the Bizrat. Which again, like you said, completely flies in the face of the point that Jabari is trying to make about Christianity actually crippling and erasing the culture. Here, we're seeing time and time again how we actually preserved it. Right.
And that's the thing is that I think diversity, and I've talked about this on the show, but diversity is an expression of God's artistic side. Maybe I can put it that way. You know what I'm saying? When you think about, the Old Testament, you got the 12 tribes of Israel. I mean, all those tribes, they weren't monolithic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Paul was proud of being a Benjamite. You know what I'm saying? The Levites were proud to be Levites. There was distinction between these tribes.
Sure.
So there was an overarching, point of unity. You see what I'm saying? But amongst those tribes, they weren't all the same. They were distinct. And mankind as a whole, okay, if you can take Israel as being a microcosm of that, mankind as a whole is the same way. The overarching unity is that we were made in the image of God,
right?
The image and likeness of God. However, when you think about, there's nothing about what God has done in the earth, you know what I'm saying, that leads us to believe that he's against any particular group having a culture. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, it talks about how we've been placed in different times and places, so on and so forth. That's part of God's sovereign working. Well, God made us social creatures. Right? He made a social creature. We have the capacity to socialize, to interact with one another, and to operate as a collective. Well, if you have groups of people, who are, over here to themselves and they're functioning as a collective, they're going to develop cultures that are different than, some collective somewhere else. I'm saying there's nothing sinful about that. That's not an outworking sin. That's outworking of God based upon the fact that he's a Trinity, you know what I'm saying? And intrinsically social. He creates us in his image. He creates us as social beings, and we have the capacities to socialize and form cultures and so on and so forth. So therefore, if something is formed out of that capacity to socialize, i.e. cultures, if it's something that's not out of step with God's truth, then we can look at that as being beautiful. We can look at it as being an expression of the Imago Dei. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why Christianity, there's no like some sort of mandate to go eradicate all cultures or eradicate all distinctions. That's just flat out. There's nowhere in Scripture. I'm saying the issue is what we've been called back to is the overarching unity in terms of being made in the Imago Dei, naturally speaking. But then even more so, that's what's the word I'm looking for? Amplified, by the covenant. You know what I'm saying? We're in covenant with one another. You know what I'm saying, through Jesus Christ. So you got these two layers of overarching unifying identity. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Well said. Well said. Bars.
Man, we get bars. we doing something tonight, man. All right, here we go.
Written in Coptic and Arabic, and the word for temple is actually Urpa, which is actually the Egyptian word that was used for temple in the traditional religion that then was used for a church. Because again, as we've said, this is another example of the ways that Christians embraced a lot of their ancestry and their history and rejected some of it, but continue to embrace a lot of it. And this is another example that shows how the language itself, again, if you look at Egyptian literature, if you just study Egyptian literature from the 1st century going forward until the 12th century, you will find Christian literature. Christianity, Bizrat, gave Africans a voice. It gave us literature, it gave us architecture. I want to show one more example of that from the modern period, from the ancient, they moved to the modern period. Well, a lot of Petros.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Elder. What was just so that we respect you as an elder, we want to also respect the debate and give everyone their time and disagreement on that. Then let's go back to the 5-minute mark, because that's when the outburst began.
All right.
You want to address that?
Yeah. Yeah, that was wild, man.
Oh man.
Let's take a step back from like the analytical. Like, I mean, so you and I we had the debate.
Yes, sir.
At this point, I'm loving what's going on. I mean, we're 2 rounds in. He's kind of on the home stretch. To me, this is victory laps right here.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then we have this outburst, man. Like, so at the time, like, what were your thoughts? Like, what were you, how did that strike you at the time, man?
Oh man, you see, you put me on the spot. I don't know if I want to say it like the way I want to say it.
Hey, let it fly, man. We can.
Yeah, you funny guy. Yeah, get in trouble. Do it. It of course it was definitely shocking. I didn't expect that to happen. The issue he had about Bantu using the word Egypt and Jesus. Now I could be wrong, but wasn't he using those words quite frequently throughout the debate?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean,
I think he would interplay with the word Kemet, and of course he'll talk about the Bizrod and Nazrari and Yeshua, and he would say Yeshua. He definitely did say Yeshua throughout the debate. Then he'll say Jesus. So so I found it interesting that for some reason at that point he just couldn't take it anymore. Like, why at that point? Now for me, the way I kind of saw it, how can I say it? It kind of looked like he that was by design. That it wasn't just emotion, that he wanted to disrupt what was happening. I'm not saying that's what he wanted to do. I'm not saying that was his heart. But from me, not knowing him, being in the audience, that's kind of how it looked like. It looked like you wanted to disrupt what was happening, at least for a moment, for whatever reasons. So it was weird. It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird, man. It was very strange, I thought, because now granted, I am somebody that tries to keep tabs on what's going on in the conscious community. Obviously I don't know, Baba Haru personally on any level, certainly. So I can't speak to him from some personal knowledge or anything like that. But I mean, I have seen him like on Side Netter and things like that. I've seen him, do some presentations or whatever. And it was weird, bro. I mean, to be honest with you, it was really strange. I felt like it was really out of character. Like anytime I've seen him, he's usually pretty chill. You know what I'm saying? And actually,
he's very regal. He's very what you expect from an elder. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
He was definitely out of pocket.
He was definitely out of pocket. I mean, it would be different if it was a situation where I'm not gonna call somebody out by name, but there are some people in the community where
they're known for disrupting. Right. That's them. Right. That's what they do. Right.
But I really wouldn't have seen that happening, man. I mean, because like I said, Baba Haru is I've always seen him present, and I think you used the right word, regal. I mean, he does come across that way. So I thought the outburst was like weird, bro. It was like super strange. You know what I'm saying? Very out of character from what I've seen. It seemed to be very out of character.
Carmel says when the debate is lost, temper flares. Well, you might have a point.
I think but
I'm glad you said it so they can blame me. No, I'm sorry. I'm playing Carmel. I'm playing Carmel.
Yeah. It's true though. I mean, by this point, Jabari has taken some mega body blows.
Pretty much.
He's taking some mega L's. You know what I mean? And it, it's looking pretty bad for the brother. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I can see how, and now again, coming back to Baba Haru being out of character, I can see how seeing his boy, take that many L's, that could compel him to want to intervene. You know what I'm saying? And step in and defend his guy. You know what I mean? But it just
to a point, I can honestly, in a weird way, I could kind of respect that, because that's his student, that's his son in the faith. And if he feels like he needs help, maybe it wasn't the most appropriate thing to do, but his heart, maybe it was, I got to defend you know, this is my brother, this is my son in the faith. I got to do something, you know. So it wasn't done in the best way, but I believe it was love for Jabari. It was love for Jabari that caused him to do that. So
you know, speaking about, you know, things that he had to do, I'm about to do something real childish right here. Yo.
Oh, you gonna rewind it or?
No, I'm about to be real child. I'm about to be super childish. Right?
Here we go.
So like,
here come the response videos. Thanks to Adam Coleman. This guy wants to smoke so bad.
Bear with me, y'all.
Yeah, man.
So again, I think your boy, I'm saying, he's out here, you know, he's struggling obviously, and
what are you talking about? Who's out here struggling?
Jabari is struggling. I think his man. I think Bobby wanted to help him out. Hold up.
It kind of felt that way. I'm not saying that was the intent, but again, looking as an audience member, it kind of looked like that.
Right. So I think.
Man.
Oh, okay.
What you gonna do?
You see that?
I don't see nothing now.
Oh,
I see a blank screen. You had something, some kind of sound effects.
Y'all gotta bear with me on this one, man. Y'all gonna have to bear with me.
Yo, funny guy.
I'm being super.
Yo, MJ, help your boy, bro. This dude's getting messy. Talk to your man.
No, I just want to tell you what I saw. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm trying to share my entire screen. Maybe I can do that. Hold up. Yeah, I'm trying to share.
MJ said Jabari is getting George Foreman at this point. Oh, man.
Actually, MJ is right on point where I'm about to go. He's saying, for all my Rocky fans out there.
Oh, you're not going to do it.
You're not gonna...
Oh, you wrong. You're right, but you're wrong. You wrong.
No, like
listen, I didn't want to say it. I was trying my best not to say it, but yeah, it did feel like this.
That's but I'm being funny, like in the debate.
Oh man,
it looks like Jabari is getting beat up on, man. And this is kind of how I saw Baba Roo right here, man. He
Oh, bro. Yeah, we're gonna catch it now. Thank you.
Oh man, and that's not even no disrespect to Baba Roo. I'm saying I think that was his emotional state.
Right.
Man, I think that's where he was at with it, man. I think he really was feeling for that dude, man. He was really
well. I mean, he's raised him, right? I mean, Jabari said he's the one that has helped me to be who I am today. So if they have a father son, you look at the brick walls falling. That's God humbling you, bro. Your Jericho walls was falling. That's God humbling you. God's telling you to slow up.
There you go. That's my whole flow.
I
just ruined it for everybody who thought I was recording in front of a real brick wall.
Yeah, basically.
Oh man,
so you had to help the spirit with your son. Yeah, MJ. That's how I saw it, bro. That's how I saw it. I don't think he meant any malice. You know what I mean? I think he let his emotions get the best of him. You know.
Right. And you know, and let me clarify. I mean, it's no disrespect to. I gotta adjust myself so y'all can't see the wall. But it's no disrespect to Baba Haru, man. Like, I mean, honestly, you know, I get it. I mean, I'm being funny, but I really do think that he was feeling for Jabari. I think he felt that he was in trouble, and he was trying to help his man out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so in a way, I feel you. In a way, I kind of respect it. It's like, you're not gonna let your dude take an L like that. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's kind of like one of those situations like back in the day. If your homeboys got a problem and they gonna squat it up, you know what I mean? But
right. you want to jump in. You want to jump in.
You want to jump in. You know what I mean? You're not gonna get beat up, but so bad. It's one of those things where you be like, all right, man, chill out. It was kind of like that, So,
and now correct me if I'm wrong. He did apologize for that later on, right?
Well, yeah, I guess I can say, yeah. Well, you already said it now, but yeah, but I do know for a fact, you know what I mean, that he made things right. You know what I'm saying? The things things were made right.
Right.
In a timely manner, you know what I'm saying, after the debate. You know what I'm saying?
Because Baba Hero, he's definitely a gentleman. He really is. He really is. I've been in the same room with him. Very regal.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very regal. You know what I mean? Really, really, really good person. So that was just emotion out of love for his son in the faith.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And the other side of it is too, man, and like just honestly, just as you know, since we're on it right now, like when it comes to Jabari, I'm gonna be honest with you. There are people in the conscious community that I do not respect. You know what I'm saying? I respect them as persons. You know what I'm saying? I respect them, you know, on a human level, but I really think that they're shady. You know what I'm saying? I really think that they're out for the money. I will say publicly that Jabari is not one of those people. You know what I'm saying? One thing, I can't think of anywhere else in our analysis in terms of the videos where I can maybe fit this in. So I'm just going to say it now.
Yeah, go for it.
You know, in my experience, you know, like being behind the scenes as this whole debate developed, you know, looking at the aftermath of people in his own community coming at his neck, looking at how he handled himself during the debate, at the debate, he's very cordial. I asked him a tough question, which we're going to get, you know, later on, you know what I'm saying? But we actually dapped up after that, man. He's a very respectful guy, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, and I would actually, you know, extend the same thing to Baba Haru. Like, I mean, there are people that I think is really out here faking just for the money. I don't think that they're in that category. I think Baba Haru, Jabari, and those that roll with him, these dudes really believe what they're saying. I'm saying I disagree with them. I think that they're incorrect, and we can disagree along those lines. But there's no respect. Like these guys are really serious. Like they really believe what they're saying.
Right.
You know?
And I mean, they dragged him. They dragged Jabari, and Jabari took the high road every step of the way. Took the high road. He didn't mudsling or nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he's a priest, right? So he knows that doing that will be getting himself out of character. So he really believes in his worldview. He says he's a priest, so he has to carry himself accordingly, and he actually did. To his credit.
Yeah, to his credit, absolutely.
To his credit.
You know what I'm saying? I told him that directly too. I said that to him as well. And I'm not saying it publicly. You know what I'm saying? He definitely was you know, he represented himself well. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sure.
Shout out to Jabari. Definitely.
Shout out to Jabari, yeah.
Yes.
All right, cool. So we keep it rolling here. Yeah, my man Alfredo, man. You keep me on the narrow path, man. I appreciate
got to, man. Someone got to.
Keep me
Someone got to.
You gotta keep me on the narrow path. All right, y'all can see that? Okay, cool. There we go.
If anybody has any pushback or questions. So this is an example. This is an excerpt from a text that was written in the 16th century when the Roman Catholic Church attempted to come into Ethiopia, which had been a nation of Nasrawi for over 1,000 years, and attempted to bring, just like they were doing. This is right after they built those slave castles and brought in Roman Christianity into Africa. They attempted to come into places where it hadn't been before. And then they even came into Axum, where it had already been for 1,000 years, and said, hey, we brought the Bisrat to you. We brought the gospel. We've come to make you Christians. And a lot of the Ethiopians saying, well, we've been Christian for over 1,000 years, so we're good. We don't really need it. But what happened was the king of Ethiopia, Sasanius, actually embraced Roman Catholic religion as the dominant religion of Ethiopia. And that lasted for a few minutes because most of the Ethiopians rejected that because, again, they had their own Bisrat, which is not new. This is an ancient term. This is an ancient form of Christianity that preceded Roman Catholic Christianity. And they revolted and said, no, we don't want this. We don't want this European. Look at the words that she uses. And actually, it was a woman, a monastic figure named Olata Petros, who actually defied not only her king, but also defied her husband, who went along with the king. And then she was chased out of her home, but she led a monastic movement and ended up galvanizing the Ethiopian people and resisted and rejected European Catholicism.
You know, let me just pause right quick before he gets into this. Before he gets into the example, I just want to give another example of what I mean when I'm talking about handling the historical record in a responsible way. We could probably, I know I could go back through all three of these rounds, and I could point to things that Bantu said that could be taken out of context, could easily be taken out of context and used against him. You know what I'm saying? If somebody wanted to be on that sneak tip and be like, oh, I got you, they could take his words out of context and be like, oh, you said such and such, and try to use it against him. So, for example, he gives an honest telling about Catholicism in terms of some, bringing, whatever they was bringing, to areas where there had been no Christian influence. Right. And then also they attempt to do so where there had been, Christian influence already, i.e. Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? Now that right there, oh, look, see, Christianity wasn't over here and they brought it over there and that, that's where y'all, but like somebody could easily take that and then try to flip it. You know what I'm saying? But Bantu doesn't shy away from those points. He's giving an honest telling of history.
Right.
You know, and so when you're standing on the truth, you don't have to bob and weave and try to avoid certain elements of history or try to sugarcoat certain things. For example, he talks about there's violence from Christians towards certain groups. He doesn't shy away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you don't have to do those things.
Right.
Standing on the truth.
Absolutely.
And when you're handling the historical record correctly, because if the more honest you are, then nobody can go back and be like, oh, he didn't say this part.
Right.
Or why did you leave such and such out? No, he's giving you the straight up, you know, what the historical record says, and he's still making his points. So, you know, again, I think that's just evidence of him not cherry picking or not trying to shape his arguments or his retelling of history in such a way that it just favors his perspective. No, he's giving you history and he's showing you why it favors his point. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
The son of Facilitus actually returned Ethiopia back to its original Christianity, to its Bisrat. And
stop it for a minute.
That's to the point where this.
All right.
And he didn't make this point, but he definitely could have, because it really would have hit the conscious community hard. So it was this black woman, this black African woman, who saw the commercialization of her theology taking place in her country. And she said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay orthodox. I don't care if the king's converting. I don't care if my husband's converting. I'm going to stay true to the Bisrat. So much so, I'm going to defy two men who are leaders in my community, husband and king, the other guy. And I'm going to galvanize this battalion, this rebel alliance, to get rid of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
An
African woman did that. I'm saying, like,
right.
Shouldn't the conscious community celebrate that?
They should. They should. Again,
strong African woman, fighting for her convictions, leading and galvanizing people to keep a foreign interest away. We don't celebrate that? How come I don't hear about her in Sinetta?
But
strong black woman leading a rebellion.
Right.
That's right up there early. That's beautiful.
But bro, this is what I'm saying though. This is why I was saying about hidden colors videos as well. It's if it doesn't, how do you not hear about this lady right here? How do you not hear about some of the other figures that you mentioned? Why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative.
Right. Facts.
It does not fit their narrative that Christianity is white-eyed, anti-female, anti-this, anti-black, belief system that we should have nothing to do with. That's their narrative. That's what they want to stick to. You know what I'm saying? But instances like these, fam, regardless of which, look, whether you're a believer or not, whether you're a Christian or not, whatever you are, right? Let's just, why don't we just do this? Why don't we agree to let the evidence speak for itself? Why don't we agree just to let the historical record speak for itself, to let critical thinking, and the conclusion that you come to, just follow the evidence where it leads and let the evidence speak for itself.
And it's funny you should say that, because they say that over there all the time. Oh, it's about scholarship. We go wherever the data takes us. Really? Really? You sure?
Right.
I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you, I know. I mean, look, I can't speak for everybody over there, but like, to be honest with you, the stuff that I've covered on my show, the stuff that we've covered on these breakdowns, I mean, yeah, I spend time researching stuff, but I'm not, I haven't really done anything that the average person can't do. You know what I'm saying? I don't have like some secret stash of scholarly materials or
I do. I have a secret stash.
I don't have like backstage access to all the scholars in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just a matter of due diligence. You know what I'm saying? It's a matter of due diligence. It's looking at the things that you stand on, analyzing them critically, and then doing your due diligence to follow the evidence where
absolutely
be responsible with the evidence. I'm saying the data. That's really all this is. You know what I'm saying? So I said that to say that it's hard for me to believe that some aspect of why those guys don't speak on these things is they just flat out don't want to. I mean, to be honest, they just don't want to. I'm saying they don't want to deal with that. I'm saying because now I'm gonna have to say this, and I've said this, in times, speaking engagements. No, this is not. I don't think
controversial. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Right. I have what's called the "you missed the spot" effect. I've got a perspective of the "you missed the spot" theory. Okay. I believe that you have a number of people, and I think it's a great number of people who would say that they, grew up in church, were Christians, have a Christian background, so on and so forth. And for one reason or another, they left the church under the mistaken idea that Christianity is the white man's religion, that Christianity was not in Africa before slavery, that there were no black Christians before the slave master came, the good ship Jesus came through, whatever. Right. All these things, what I'm saying. And to add to that, misinformation or lack of information, they didn't know anything about Cyprian, didn't know anything about Tertullian, didn't know anything about Athanasius, didn't know anything about the lady he just mentioned. Shoot, I didn't even know anything about the lady he just mentioned. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, me either.
There's all kinds of stuff that we don't know because we just haven't committed to study, or we just weren't aware. I'll just put it that way. And I think what happens is when you're confronted with the fact that you got a nation like Ethiopia that was Christians of their own volition for over 1,000 years, well over 1,000 years before the transatlantic slave trade. When you got to deal with, you have the fact you have Nubia, right? That was also Christianized.
Yep, King Silko.
Right? For about a century, I'm saying, or maybe over a century, not a century, excuse me, millennia, before the transatlantic slave trade. You know what I'm saying, when you have to deal with all those kinds of things and the information that we bring out on our channels and stuff like that, when you dipped out the church, you know what I'm saying, for lack of information, and then are confronted with these things, you know what I'm saying, you were like, oh snap, I missed the spot. And it's like, well, dag, well, wait a minute. Like, maybe I left the church and I just did away with Jesus, but he's real. And this whole time I've been living any kind of way. I've been doing my own thing.
Right.
And I've been thinking I was God.
Right.
And I can just live however I want as long as I have the right vibrations, so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? And now, wait a minute, what if I messed up? What if it's true?
Right.
Maybe I was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I need to repent. And there really is this God who sits high, looks low, and sees everything that I've been doing. And I'm going to be held accountable for how I live and whether or not I rejected the gift of grace through Jesus Christ. Maybe that's true. Now, if somebody who's in that position, that's kind of scary. That's a scary thought. I was like, oh snap, I've been messing up this whole daggone time. Like, right. It's I need to repent. That's a scary thought. So you have some people who might be like, well, dang, man, I need to go and get it right. And you have other people who are in the face of evidence are just going to kind of go the cognitive dissonance route and just fight evidence.
Right. But that's because it takes humility though to admit that you're wrong. Right. And especially if you've kind of etched out your own lane within this other community, for you to actually let all that go.
Yeah.
To come back to the truth.
Right.
Which of course is the most important thing, but you're letting go of a lot of things. You probably have a great viewership, sure. You're making all this income telling lies. Now that you realize lies.
Right.
But to let all that go in order to pursue truth, that's a difficult thing to do.
It's a cost. It's a real cost, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing is that, one thing I've come to realize, and I'm not going to go too deep into it, but when we think about epistemology, you know what I'm saying, which is, the branch of philosophy that deals with, what we know, how we know it, things right. of that nature. You know what I'm saying? The steps that somebody takes to come to conclusions is in some way intersected with the condition of the heart. You know what I'm saying? It's just the fact of the matter. You have some people that they cannot come to right conclusions about things because they got a heart problem. It's not an intellect problem.
Right.
It's not an evidence problem. You have a heart problem. You know what I'm saying? It's the fact that at the end of the day, you're rebelling against God and you don't want to stop. And so therefore, you're going to reject any information, any evidence, any clear critical thinking that goes against what it is that you want to do. That's the fact of the matter.
But again, the gospel, right? We talk about how it subverts things. The gospel teaches us, give up your life, deny yourself, right? So that you can gain Christ. that flies in the face of what the world says, right? Like what Jones says here, most people don't fight the evidence, they fight their personal sovereignty. Exactly.
Right.
The Bible rails against personal sovereignty. It rails against it. You know, our Messiah railed against it. He claimed victory through a cross. When you look at it from a worldly perspective, that makes no sense. You don't purposely go and die when you're supposed to be the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, right? That was Peter's problem. It's like, what do you mean you're going to die? You just got here. I got the sword. I'm strapped. I'm ready to rock with you. What are you talking about?
Right.
He couldn't comprehend that through this emptying of himself, we gain everything.
Right.
Right. So,
yeah, it's counterintuitive. And I think the other thing is too, like, you know, and maybe this is a good point. Maybe it's a good point to say this, like, you know, make no mistake about it. I love apologetics. You know what I'm saying? Like when people see me online, like talking about apologetics all day and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, this is really who I am. This is really what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like I study it. I love it. I enjoy it. You know, when I'm not hanging out with the family, I'm reading something. That's just how it is. Right. However, make no mistake about it. I am under no impression, and nor should any other apologist be. You know what I'm saying? That information is sufficient for conversion.
Right.
Okay. And by that, what I mean is, you know, just arguing somebody into the kingdom independent of the working of the Holy Spirit.
It's not going to work.
Information by itself. Let me clarify that, you know, kind of add response. Information by itself is not sufficient for conversion. Nobody has ever come to Christ, you know what I'm saying, because of information alone, right? Anything that I'm doing, you know, and I think I can speak for the BK apologists and any other apologists that I know. You know what I'm saying? Anything that we're doing, if it is to be successful in any way, shape, or form, it is only because the information that we're providing is being utilized in the life of someone by the Holy Spirit to draw them to Himself. That's
absolutely.
You know, apart from that, I mean, we just hold up shop and just, you know, stop what we're doing. I mean, that's simple as that. You know, and so again, you know, when people are fighting the information, I suspect they're not just fighting the information; they're resisting the Holy Spirit. They're you know, they're kicking against the goads. Right. Use that analogy that, you know, Paul. Shout out to my man Nate. What do you mean? Yeah, shout out to my man John McCrae. Definitely, if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to my man John McCrae's channel at What Do You Mean? MEME. What do you mean? You know what I'm saying? But I just want to throw that out there, man. Like, you know, never get it twisted, bro. It's all about the work of the Holy Spirit. Sometimes absolutely. Resisting the information, it's not because you haven't presented it well. It's not because you were imprecise or inaccurate in what you said. Sometimes we just gotta call a spade, man. Cats, man. We all, man, shoot. We're all rebels, bro. We all are. You know, and it's just our prayer that people stop rebelling against God and come to know Him. That's what it comes down to. So yeah.
That's it. Pass the plate. Let's go.
Here we go.
Text comes in where it's a celebration of the expulsion of European Christianity, and and this is a picture for a monastery. And actually,
wait. We might have to rewind that.
Uses
is a celebration of what?
I have no idea what he said.
Yeah, rewind that a little further. Just
I'm joking. Let's see.
This is a picture for a monastery and Christianity. And this is a picture for a monastery, and actually, that's where the point where this text comes in, where it's a celebration of the expulsion of European Christianity, and this is a picture for a monastery, and actually, the
wow, you know what? Actually, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I've listened. I don't know why I've never heard that. I mean, like, seriously, I've listened to this debate a couple of times, and I don't know how I missed that point.
Yeah, I gotta find that plaque or whatever he's talking about. We gotta get that.
Yeah, I'm gonna round it back a little. Maybe he says it. I mean, I'm not even being funny. I feel like some of this, I don't know how I missed it.
To its original Christianity, to its Bisrat, and that's where the Pomponius Facilitas actually returned Ethiopia back to its original Christianity, to its Bisrat, and that's where the point where this text comes in, where it's a celebration of the expulsion of European Christianity, and this is a picture for a monastery, and actually the analogy that she uses in this text is talking about the freedom, as birds, like the African Christians now have from European Christianity. She says, "Blessed be our Lord God, who did not deliver us into the treacherous net of the Europeans."
Oh, wait. Wait.
How did I?
Wait, drop a bomb on that. Drop a bomb on that, son. You gotta drop a bomb on that. Rewind, come again. Rewind, come again.
How did I miss that, bro? I'm not even being funny.
That's bars.
In Christianity, she says, "Blessed be our Lord God, who did not deliver us into the treacherous net of the Europeans. Indeed, our souls fled like birds from a hunting net. Now the net has been torn asunder, and we are safe."
Wow.
And so this is the
drop a bomb to that. That's tough.
That has been among
real
African
tough
people, specifically the Bisrat spirit of African people from the beginning. That continues.
Pause that.
We have.
What do you do with that?
Man, I don't know, bro. I don't know.
Because this woman is singing their tune. They love that, right? We got to get rid of European, kick them out of here. She actually did it, and she got a song.
Bam.
I got a song. You want to hit it, go. You know what I mean? She got a song. She got a soundtrack for the rebellion. It's like, that's great. Really?
I mean, but she has a monastery too, though, dedicated to her. She got a monastery, a soundtrack. Man, I mean, like real talk. I mean, they're all about structures like pyramids and stuff like that. They're all about it's written on the walls in Egypt. You know?
right.
This is somebody right here. This is a monument right here to this lady. You know what I'm saying? Who galvanized these Christians to expel this other foreign
Christianity, right?
Yeah. Whoo, man, I mean,
like we're free like birds. We out of here. We out here, son. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we don't celebrate this.
So, was it Carmel Crunk said what years he referencing? Now, I know that I want to say it's in the 1600s because I got another source from that area that's dealing with the same thing, but I'm not 100% sure what year that was. But I did contact Bantu to get a list of the sources that he used for the debate, and he said he was going to shoot them to me. So,
and I'm saying, bro, you didn't. What's the email?
Yeah.
What's up?
He hasn't gotten it to me yet. You know what I'm saying? But I texted him. You know what I'm saying?
So ask me for notebooks. That's it. You're done. You're caught up.
That's it.
Go some type of way.
I was going to share it with everybody. I was going to share, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, send it to me. Yeah, but I was going to just like post it in, you know, I guess I could put it in the description or something like that. But he's going to send me his. I
gotta get that book. That thing he's referencing right there. I gotta get that.
I'm about to go back and listen to it. But
I gotta get that joint. That joint is crazy.
Yeah, that's wild, bro. That's wild, man. She had bars back then, B. That's crazy. But yeah, I guess you want to keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going.
All right, cool.
We have one of the largest slave rebellions in South Carolina, the Stono Rebellion, where African slaves in South Carolina fought against white slave owners, and they were actually Christians. They were Nasrawi from the Congo and had been even before they came over in slavery and fought against this. And then,
you know what's crazy? I'm like, you know, people might think that I'm being funny. Like I don't know how I missed it. Like seriously, I don't remember that. I don't remember him saying that either. You know what I'm saying? But like,
again, right? Like he's like he had so many like arrows.
Yeah.
You know how when you're carrying a bunch of arrows, some of them are gonna fall by the wayside. So
right.
Like, there's so many points that he doesn't even use.
Right. I mean,
like the fact that he just skimmed over the fact that there was Congolese Christians who came over the slave trade fighting against the oppressors. They already had the gospel.
Yeah, and I mean the Stono Rebellion is a very well-known rebellion. I mean, it's not like as well known as like Nat Turner or something like that. But if you look up, you know, slave rebellions, like that's going to be, you know, the Gabriel Prosser, of course. You know, as I said, you know, Nat Turner, the Stoner Rebellion, that's going to come up as well.
But he's not even making it. He's not even making it. He's not even highlighting that. It's like, yeah, that happened. Let's keep going. It's a sidebar.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you know. Oh, was that a dad guy dropped from my pocket? I'm sorry. Let me pick that up real quick. I'm sorry.
That's
you know what I mean? It's like
he's on the B side of the album right
now. That's a major point. And he's like,
there's a major point. And he's in again now. People who've been following us since the earlier rounds. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I look for. Like, you know, if you're trying to make a point, I want to see, you know, you fill in the gaps with evidence. You know what I'm saying? To kind of bring us to your conclusion. That I mean, he's doing what he said he was going to do. He told you he was going to go to the ancient, you know, after
the modern, right?
Show the resistance. He's going to give you the modern. He's
doing being consistent. He's being consistent.
Right. Well, I mean, what more can you ask for? You know what I mean? So,
keep going. Let's keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, bars, man.
Wheatley, who in her poetry, in her public address to the Earl of Dartmouth, is renouncing slavery and European Christianity. Same thing with Oleada Equiano, who also talks very vehemently against the, kind of how the liberal devise liberal things, but by liberal things, that how they shall stand. They can say with pious Job, did not I weep for him that he that was in trouble? Was not my soul grieved for the poor? Frederick Douglass, one of my favorite quotes that really exemplifies again how from the very beginning, just like Walata Petros and just like Shenouda and just like Daniel of Scatus back on the continent, even here, those of us that put our faith in Yeshua and those of us that put our faith in the Bisrat, who became Nasrawi, like Frederick Douglass, still understood the vast distinction between the oppressive white Christianity of the land and that that was being practiced among Black people. And so notice what he says here. He says, what I have said respecting and against religion, I mean strictly to apply to the slave-holding religion of this land and with no possible reference to Christianity proper. Notice Douglas's word that there's a difference between the Christianity of this land and Christianity proper. Again, what I'm defending today is Bisrat proper. For between the Christianity of this land and the Christianity of Christ, I recognize the widest possible difference. So wide that to receive, this part is powerful, that to receive the one as good, pure, and holy is of necessity to reject the other as bad, corrupt, and wicked. To be the friend of the one is of necessity to be the enemy of the other. I love the pure, peaceable, and impartial Christianity of Christ. I therefore hate the corrupt, slave-holding, women-whipping, cradle-plundering, partial, and hypocritical Christianity of this land. Indeed, I can see no reason but the most deceitful one for calling the religions of this land Christianity. So when I'm distinguishing myself today,
that's a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
It's a serious mic drop.
Well, Frederick Douglass is my dude, man. That's my guy right there, man.
They never talk about Frederick Douglass.
Nah, they don't talk about Frederick.
They never talk Frederick Douglass.
They don't talk about Frederick. I mean, it was sad because and this is something I talked about. I was talking with Vocab about, like, there's so much of Black history that has been sanitized of the Christian element. Mm-hmm. And of course, the Reverend Dr. K. It's kind of hard to get around that, but I mean, people like Frederick Douglass, for example, you know what I'm saying? I mean, who was more prominent in his day against slavery than Frederick Douglass? Who was more impactful, against slavery than Frederick Douglass? He wrote the North Star. You know what I'm saying? That was his publication, rather. You know what I'm saying? His abolitionist publication. Now, mind you, this same Frederick Douglass, you know what I'm saying, published his abolitionist paper, the North Star, in the basement of an AME Zion church.
Wow. See?
He was operating out of an AME Zion church.
Crazy.
He was actually a lay minister. Frederick Douglass was a preacher. He was a lay minister of the AME Zion church. Anybody can go fact check me on that.
Crazy.
Anybody can go fact check me on that.
That's
what I'm saying? These are the things that you don't hear about. You don't hear about that
side. He didn't even bring all that up again.
Didn't bring all that up, man.
He didn't even bring all that up. He's like, I got so much artillery. Bruh. I can't possibly shoot you with everything I have. I just I only have 2 arms. I can only carry but so much on the stage.
What do you do with that? He's giving you, I mean, come on, man. He went from ancient times to the modern. He's showing you the resistance. He's showing you how, the Bisrat is antithetical to what it is that Jabari is referring to as white man's religion. They're not one and the same. Come on, man. And again, these are the kind of things, like, if you're gonna come at me about Christianity being a white man's religion, if you don't know this stuff, if you can't tell me about Frederick Douglass, the other people in name, Olaudah Equiano, if you can't tell me about who's my man, Henry Highland Garnett, that's what I was trying to think of. If you can't say nothing about those guys, man, if you're not digging in the crates like that, we just really can't even have that kind of conversation. Shoot, he was talking about rebellions, man. We could talk about Toussaint Louverture. Toussaint Louverture led one of the world's most, if not the most successful slave rebellion. They literally overturned slavery in Haiti, fam. And Toussaint Louverture was a devout Catholic, B. You know what I'm saying? When they overturned slavery, it was from the French. I'm saying when they got rid of that, in their first constitution, they instituted Catholicism as being the state religion. You know what I'm saying? Like he was, and it was he got beef for that. Like Casper was mad at him for that. It was because you had the indigenous religions that was mad about it.
Right.
He stood on his square. That's what he was about. I mean, are we going to call him a sellout? This dude who freed so many people? They don't want to talk about that, yo. They don't want to talk about that stuff, bro.
But this is right up their alley, right? Because they talk about fight the power.
Of course.
Fight the power, preserve the culture. Right? Those are two major talking points. Fight the power, preserve the culture.
Come on.
Clearly,
man.
Christianity did both things well.
Marcus Garvey, B. What are we talking about? You know what I'm saying? Another guy, Moses Dixon. You know what I'm saying? Cassidy needed to do the knowledge on Moses Dixon and the Knights of Tabor, man. Like, bruh, come on, man. Come on, man. You know, so again, there's some, but these dudes are so intent on trying to just topple Christianity that they overstep all of this history that just based on the things that they rock with, they should rock with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot
because we're talking your language.
Of course.
We're talking your language. Like,
come on, man.
We really are. You want resistance? We do it here. Preserve the culture? We do it here.
Right. Right.
Forward thinking, progressive, we do it here. Great intellects, we got you right here. Women being empowered to lead and cause change, we got that here too.
Right.
So what's good?
I mean, where are you going to go after that? Where are you going to go after that? Yes, that's what I'm saying, man. And this is why I love so much about the debate is the fact that these kind of things can come to the forefront.
Absolutely.
I've learned so much just by doing these breakdowns and going back and researching stuff. I learned stuff just now. I mean, like stuff right here, right now. I'm not making this up. Like for whatever reason, somehow I missed some of this stuff, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, oh snap! Now I got to go back and study about that. You know what I mean? So it's just, so it's good for us, but it's also good for them as well, man. But it's this again. It's like, dog, you missed a spot. You know what I'm saying, if you believe
that's not a spot, that's a gaping hole, son. That's not a spot.
Right.
That's a crater. You missed a whole crater.
2,000 years of African. You know what I'm saying?
Buddy.
I be telling these guys, man, like, yo, man, no disrespect to Tariq Nasheed. I have nothing personal against those individuals, but yo, man, if you believe that the Hidden Colors rendition of what Christianity looks like is historical, fam, you've been lied to, B. You've been misled, fam. I'm not gonna
bamboozled, led astray.
I'm gonna take the moral language out of it. I'm gonna say you've been misled. You're mistaken. You've been given mistaken information. I'm trying to put it as cordially, as diplomatically as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? If you believe the Hidden Colors rendition of history with respect to what Christianity has looked like down through the centuries, you've been misled, fam. You missed several spots. You missed 2,000 years of spots here. Nearly. You know what I mean?
But again, that's why what we do is important. What MJ does is important, and what Beatrice said, and so many others, is so important, because the reason why people believe in that narrative is because of the power of social media.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you know how many people have seen Hidden Colors, at least one of them, throughout the Black and brown community?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's why
barbershop, somebody's,
always,
whatever, yeah, absolutely, man.
Always. And I'm talking about Christians. I'm talking about Christians.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm talking about Christians getting their history from that. So
you're right. It's not just people out there in the world. It's true. That's very true. Can't deny that, just real quick, let me go back to the video. But Carmel Croy asked, do members of the Kemetic community plan to one day go back to Egypt? I mean, they take trips, but I'm not aware of any like doctrine or that would cause them to.
I'm not familiar with that.
As a matter of fact, in this round, you can check it out at our last breakdown on BK Apologist channel. But in Jabari's round 3, he explicitly says that going back to Africa is not it's not a necessary part of what they believe or what they're about. That's right. They believe that you can be anywhere in the world, and they kind of take a Pan-Africanist view that we kind of should be, wherever we are, we should be helping each other out. But as far as Kemeticism is concerned, maybe there's some other practitioners that get down like that, but I'm not aware of anybody that holds being part of their belief system that you go
back to Egypt movement. Yeah, I've never. Right. Real quick, Nate. So you mentioned the Star Wars apologetics. Well, funny you should say that. I was able to speak at my church this Sunday. I was preaching about Ephesians 6, and I used a Mandalorian thing. So, and I have a slide with the Mandalorian on the slide. So The video will be dropping soon, so you'll be seeing that shortly. But I did make a Mandalorian reference, so I thought you would like that. And Beatrice, you would like that too. I know you're a big Star Wars fan too. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, MJ Jackson is right too. About the he said good luck with dealing with those Muslims over there, and
true.
It's definitely overrun by Islam. You got the Muslim Brotherhood and whoever else is over there. So yeah, you might have a hard way to go trying to get over there with some new age comedic.
Yeah, you come with that unk. You're gonna come with that AK-47
rifle. Yeah. The whole different ball game over there now, dog. You might just go ahead and slide somewhere else. But you want to keep going, or
how much is left? Because we're already 2 hours in.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a lot. I don't think.
All right, come on.
I think this is in. I'm pretty sure. I started it let's see what happens.
All right.
And saying that there is a bisrat tradition among African people, it's not a new idea that I thought up today. I'm introducing you a word that is 1,700 years old. And I'm talking to you today about a faith that has brought our people through a mighty long way and will continue to do so.
Time.
There you go. There you go.
He really, that was wow. This is more powerful than, like, I've seen this maybe the second, third time. This is far more powerful than I remember it being. I guess you let it sink in. You're getting all the, you miss certain points, and it's like, man, he really went in.
Yeah, he really went in, man. And like I said, I mean, both of us were there, and somehow that whole 5 minutes at the end, I was kind of missing it. Maybe Vocab Malone, he was there too. Maybe he was talking my head off or something at that point. Maybe that's why I missed it. Vocab. He was talking during the joint, man. But yeah, he definitely went in, man, and he did what he said he was gonna do. He told you that he was gonna
show proof. Show proof,
man. He's gonna show you the ancient resistance. He's gonna go up. He's gonna bring you up to the modern, in the Western world here, and he did that. So when it comes to whatever types of oppression that we're facing today, the Christian worldview has a track record amongst African people of being a resource for overcoming the types of oppression that we're facing. You know what I'm saying? And successfully so in many instances. So I don't know what else to say, man. It was about 5, 6, 7 mic drops. You know what I'm saying? What's funny, man? Like we've been joking about unintentional bars, and it's funny because when we were on your channel, for round 3, there was like a bunch of stuff that I had missed. You know what I'm saying, from Jabari, where he was just beating himself to death. Killing his own points. Right. Anybody, I would just encourage people to go over to BK Apologist channel and watch that breakdown, because there's several points that actually prior to watching it, as we were watching it on live, I had missed a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we would so you had some unintentional bars, and I'm finding the same thing here. Going through Bantu's round 3, I don't know how, man. I just missed some of this stuff, man, and listening to it again, I'm like, man, I don't even remember him saying that, but it's more bars, bro. Like, he really showed improve, man. Really showed improve. Had a really strong round, and that's why seriously, as we're coming to the end of round 3, we'll talk about the stuff that we got coming up, because we're not done yet, yo. We're not done. We saving the best for last. That's all I'm gonna say. If you think this has been dope, just trust me, we got more coming. But with that being said, man, looking at the 3 rounds, I'm really serious about analyzing argumentation. Like, if Bantu did a terrible job, I wouldn't be up here, defending it, or doing 2-3 hour breakdowns or whatever we've been doing, just trying to make stuff up. No, content for content, source for source, evidence for evidence. Bantu just bodied this man. It just is what it is. I'm sorry. It's just like round 1, 2, 3. I'm looking at the source. I'm trying to be as critical as I can. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying not to, be biased. I'm trying to find ways to argue against Bantu, but it is what it is, man. Like, I'm sorry. It's just the evidence was not there on Bantu's side. On Jabari's side. The argumentation was not there. You know what I mean? And
MJ says the Q&A is where the room gets dark. MJ, facts. It gets the red wedding begins on the Q&A. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, man. So, Yeah, I mean, it's a strong debate, man. Beginning to end, man, and so we got some things coming up. So we're gonna be. Well, actually, before I get there, you want to say anything or?
MJ, man, it's funny. All the shade, bro. All the shade. You messy. Nah, man. We're definitely gonna do the Q&A. We're not gonna say how we're gonna do the Q&A. There might be some, some cameos, some guest appearances during the Q&A breakdowns. I'm not gonna say who. You know what I mean? That might happen, might not. Keep you in suspense.
Right.
And okay, we got somebody here. We're in the audience, can't see any of the sources at all. It's hard to take your word for it. Well, I mean, it's not our word. I mean, Sice's word being sourced. If you listen to Bantu and Jabari, they both were citing things. So this round, for some reason, they didn't put up the slides. I don't know why they didn't do that, but
well, I mean, for the
they just.
I'm just saying that Well, I'll just leave it to that. You know what I mean?
I didn't film it, so I don't know what happened.
Right.
I can't help you.
But the bottom line is, as far as sources, I say I can speak for Bantu. I mean, he told me that he's going to give me his sources. I'll be able to post those up, put them in the description or whatever. As far as the slides or whatever. Yeah, you're right. They didn't really do that this round. But I'll say that it's no fault of. I'll just leave that alone.
It is what it is. That's what it is. But again, it's on video. You can do what we're doing. You can press pause. You can write the source, press play. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, because they did speak. Both of them did provide sources for their arguments. Mm-hmm. So,
you can evaluate them. You know what I'm saying? For sure. Yeah.
So, we, I don't know when we'll talk about, I guess, that off the scene about when we'll do the Q&A portion. But
definitely we're gonna make our way through that. And seriously, I'm not saying it just for the sake of like suspense. By the way, it was Sergeant Bob Strong, JD. Thanks for the question. You know what I'm saying? For sure, and thanks for being here. As far as the Q&A, I'm not making it up. I'm not just saying it to keep people in suspense. Like, if you've been enjoying these breakdowns, you don't want to miss the Q&A. You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to be a nice little send off, for our series. And we got a lot more bars left. We've been taking our time with this thing. You know what I'm saying? We're not rushing it. We're really just kind of combing through, and
we're gonna call it Q&A, aka the rise of Adam Coleman. Jedi Knights.
Oh man, it's hilarious, man. Maybe I should just address that as to why I asked that question. Should I do that, or should I just leave that for another show?
Nah, leave it. Don't give them nothing. They gotta pay for that. They gotta pay for that.
Yeah, pay for that. All right, cool. We'll do that on another show. But
right.
I had my reasons. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't just trying to be mean spirited or anything like that. But I had some good reasons. But anyway.
Well, the one thing I will say that I didn't realize until I saw the video, that you actually wrote your question down, right? You put it on your phone.
Well, yeah, that was really for everybody else's sake. So, I mean, because I don't know if I can't remember if they showed this in the video or not. That was.
I saw you looking at your phone while you was saying the question.
Yeah, because Eric Mason said that we had 10 seconds to ask the question. You know what I'm saying? He was very clear that they do want people sermonizing,
right?
And like 10, 15 seconds to ask the question. And I know myself. I know that if I just get up there and start talking, then I'm brevity is not my strong point. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that
pie charts just emerge out of nowhere.
Right, man. I mean,
PowerPoint presentations start showing up. It's like, how did that happen? Like,
right.
Where did he get all these toys? Like, how did he?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's funny though is actually MJ Jackson said, yeah, Adam had to get that boy good and concise. Actually, I mean, he's being funny, but it's true. Like the original question that I was gonna ask was like literally 3 times as long as what I ended up asking. But then Mason was like, yo, you got 10 seconds. So I was like, I had to go back and retype it, you know what I'm saying, to make sure that I could say it within those 10 seconds. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I kind of gave myself a little bit of script because I didn't.
I think it made it more powerful because it was like a rabbit punch that nobody was looking for. Right to the kidneys. Like, whoa.
It's like, yo, where did that come
And
Yeah.
I've known Adam a little bit now, and very cordial, very all around good dude. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I never saw that side of Adam before. And he wasn't out of pocket. It was just very vigorous. He was very vigorous.
A spirited question.
Very spirited. Poignant.
But it's funny because I didn't realize the reaction of the crowd until like afterwards. I was like, dang,
Bro, if you see me in the video because I'm sitting right in front of you, I'm convulsing when you're saying it. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is he doing?
Like, get out of the way, duck.
Oh my god.
Oh man, but I get jazzed up, man, and that might have been a relapse of the old Adam Coleman. I try to keep him on the wraps, man. I try to keep. Mr. Jekyll came out, man, and
yo, between you and Vocab's question, oh man, that was bad.
Yeah, right,
that was bad. You two were bad people.
Back to back too, I think.
You guys were bad. You were savages. He didn't know where to go when you guys did that to him. Oh my gosh, both barrels.
Oh man, but I shook his hand after we dapped up. What I'm saying? It was all good.
Oh, it was all love. No, yeah, of course. I just didn't see it coming. I just didn't see it. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't ready.
Right.
No, I wasn't ready. Oh no, I was not ready.
We're not ready, man.
I was not ready.
But it was wild. But we'll get into more of that as to why I asked the question and why I worded it the way that I did. I was really intentional about that. You know what I'm saying? So we would definitely get. But yeah, I wrote it down. I mean, honestly, just for the sake of. I mean, I respect Eric Mason, man. I respect. He ran a tight ship the whole debate.
Absolutely.
And he said if we had 10 seconds, I wanted to make sure I honored the house. You know what I'm saying? And
yes, sir.
Those 10 seconds. So
yes,
I gave myself a script, knowing my personality. You know what I'm saying? I gave myself a little script there to keep me.
Oh, MJ, you gotta listen to Vocab's question. This joint was killer too, bro. Oh man.
Oh yeah. If you ever heard,
bro, Vocab went. Oh,
Vocab went in.
He went in, bro.
I was like, yeah. I mean, people talking about the question I asked. I was like, dang. All right, Vocab. All right, brother.
Put it this way, it was the same energy.
Oh, the energy was flowing, man.
Same energy that Adam had, Vocab had to say. I don't know if they talked about it behind,
No.
You go first, and I'm gonna hit him. You hit him high, I hit him low. I mean, I don't know if they had a strategy, but
it was wild because I mean, we rode to the event together. You know what I'm saying? And the whole time, like, honestly, Vocab doesn't really spend time on comedicism. You know what I'm saying? We talk about it, but he doesn't really. That's just not his area of focus. So I was shocked that he asked the question at all, quite frankly. But then
the type of question he asks.
Yeah.
For somebody who's not into the whole comedic worldview, that was a very focused and pointed question. Like, you would think he did know a lot because everybody knows the course that he quoted, which I'm not gonna say right now because.
I mean, me and Vocab, we talk. I mean, almost nearly a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? Like and I mean, I know that comedicism is not, that's just not where he spends his time. You know what I'm saying? So when he asked that question, I was as shocked as everybody else. I was like, oh, all right, brother. All right. You know what I'm saying? I see you. Okay. All right. So but as Karma Crunk said, man, I mean, it was right on point, man. It was right on point, man. MJ Jackson said Jabari caught that.
Could have 2 P's. MJ's messy.
Oh man. So it's kind of wrapping up. So we're gonna be on your channel next time. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
We'll be going there to BK Pod. So anybody who's on this chat right here, we've been doing these breakdowns. We're going back and forth between BK Pod's channel and mine. So if you haven't subscribed to his channel, go to BK Apologist here on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel because that's where we're going to be for the next section of our breakdown. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, maybe you just stopped in for the live, but you haven't subscribed to this channel yet. Definitely subscribe right here at Tru-ID Apologetics. For our channel, dropping videos and that kind of stuff. So
absolutely,
yeah, man. I guess with that, do you want to do questions? You want to close it out? What you want to do?
Anybody got any quick questions before we wrap this up in the chat?
Yeah, anything we missed, or I tried to get questions as I went.
We'll let MJ get messy one more time before we go. Go ahead, MJ.
Give one more jab.
Yeah. Throw one more shot, MJ, if you feel like it.
Oh man. Oh, you know what? Actually, before I forget, anybody who's been enjoying these breakdowns, if you haven't, go check out the breakdown that was done over on vocab. I don't know what's going on with my background here today, man. It's just
the bricks of Jericho walls, brother. Jericho walls.
Struggling. But go to the Vocab Malone's. Again, that's Vocab Malone's YouTube channel. I think it's Street Apologist. I'm not sure what the URL is. It might be Street Apologist. It's either Vocab Malone or Street Apologist, or I guess you can just search for either one of those. Yeah. And Vocab Malone's channel should come up. MJ Jackson, Chris Featherstone, Nefertiti, and Vocab just did a breakdown as well.
It was a great job, guys, by the way. Great job.
Yeah, great job. Great job. They just did one on Vocab's channel. I think also I might mess it up. I'm not sure what her channel name, but I think it's Tyus Teed, I believe. She also did a breakdown. I probably messed up the YouTube channel name, so I'll try to get it right and then maybe put it in the description. But she did a breakdown as well. And definitely, so you definitely want to check that out. Shout out to my man Nate for the super chat. Much appreciated, brother. Much appreciated. I might have to start having like incentives for these super chats, man. I'm thinking about doing a book giveaway, like for every maybe $50 or something like that I get in a super chat. I'll do a book giveaway or something like that. Matter of fact, just Miss Titus 2. I think that's right. Matter of fact, I'm put a. Yeah, so this YouTube channel here, she did a breakdown as well, the debate. So I'm just trying to, everybody's got different perspectives. Everybody's bringing something different to the table. So I'm just shouting out people who've done some stuff on this.
Joan says Adam's background looks like the rendering of the empty tomb. Well, it's funny you should say that because we decided for this round that we would fly him back to the Temple of Karnak just so we could have a, more authentic vibe, you know what I mean? So
right on location. I'm on location at the empty tomb.
Basically.
That's hilarious, man. That's hilarious. Yeah, man. Hey, just real quick question. Just if I can get some ones, somebody put ones in the chat if you would be interested in me doing book giveaways, contingent upon super chats. Like say every $50, I'll give a book away or something. If you'd be interested in that. Somebody, just give me some ones if y'all think that would be a good idea. Since I got y'all's attention anyway, what I'm saying? I'm saying? Give me some ones.
Yeah, it takes a minute. Yeah, there's a delay. Oh, there you go. Oh, wow. All right,
yeah.
Oh,
all right.
They want them books, bro. They want them books.
Cool. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do like maybe I'll just say for right now, maybe every 50, maybe every $50, I'll do a book away. All right, yeah. Tyler.
MJ wants a whole bunch. Yeah, MJ. Man, I seen your videos. You got tons of books. Stop it.
MJ,
your library's crazy.
I'm not getting MJ not one book.
Your library's crazy.
But his wife is probably would be just burn his whole library because he's filling up the home with books. You know what I'm saying? So, let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, Street Prep. All right, cool. So you know what? Askia Jones is on my Patreon, so I didn't realize it was one and the same person. Yeah, dope. Okay, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yo, Carmel has a really great question. Highlight her question.
Okay, how do I get back up there? I always mess this up, man.
Nope, not go up.
Yeah, no, I gotta. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, who founded the Kemetic community? That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I don't know if they would really point to a single founder. So it's not like the Moorish Science Temple, for example. They might point to somebody like Noble Drew Ali,
right,
being the founder, or the Nation of Islam might point to Ford or Farad. You know what I'm saying, as being their founder. So if my understanding, I don't think that the Kemetics will point to a single founder in that sense, at least not in America anyway. You know what I'm saying? What you do have is kind of a gradual outgrowth of what we would call Kemeticism today that goes back to the mid to late 18th century. So one thing I've talked about in the past, I just kind of give you a snippet version, but what we see today is the Kemetic community. As far as I can tell, it's kind of like an outgrowth of two streams, that kind of begin in the 1800s. Okay, so you have on one side, you have abolitionists actually appealing to Egypt as a civilized society that was sophisticated, so on and so forth, and they're using Egypt as an example of basically to say that Africans aren't stupid, that we are sophisticated, so on and so forth. So somebody like dang, what's that guy's name? David Walker. You know what I'm saying? David Walker's appeal. You know, he makes that argument. There's another guy who sent a letter to Abby Gregoire. Abby is his title, but Gregoire. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. He was like a priest or something like that. And he wrote a book and makes the same argument that Egypt was a sophisticated society. Therefore, you know, they aren't, you know, so mentally depraved that they are rightfully stationed in this position of being slaves in society. So you have those kind of arguments being, you know, kind of funneling out, you know, in the 18th, 19th century. But then also in the mid 1800s, late 1800s, you also have this swell of what some have called Egyptomania, you know, over there in Europe, you know, where as a result of Napoleon having some engagements over there in the Middle East and so forth, he's making some moves that open up parts of Egypt to tourism. And so like this, you know, engaging Egyptian culture becomes like this fad, you know what I'm saying, over there in Europe. You know, it becomes a exotic tourist spot, and they start, you know, looking at the architecture, and you know, it just becomes a fad. I mean, they even have like mummy unwrapping parties, you know what I'm saying, that become like all the rage over there in England and in the United States as well. So now out of that fad, I'm saying, among Europeans, you know, you begin to have the people like that become the OGs of today's Kemeticism, like what's my man? I'm not a man, but you know, Gerald Massey, you know what I'm saying, for example, you know, a pseudo scholar from the 19th century, you know, people like him, Leo Frobenius, some other gentlemen as well, you know. So you have this beginnings of Egyptian focused pseudo scholarship in the late 1900s that grow out of that fad. So out of I said 1900s, 19th century. So out of those two streams, you have it kind of flowing up into the 1900s, you know what I'm saying? And it's, you know, people like Sheikh Anta Diop, John Henry Clark, you know, Dr. Ben begin pulling from sources like Gerald Massey, Leo Frobenius, you know, those who were in that fad period in the 19th century. And they start pulling from those sources, you know, refurbishing it a bit, and began articulating some of the same points in their own work. John G. Jackson, matter of fact, MJ Jackson, you know, here, who's on the chat, he's got a whole video, I think, on his channel about John G. Jackson and some of these other folks. But anyway, my point is, you know, so out of that Egyptomania fad, and you know, flowing out of the 19th century, along with, you know, some of the abolitionist piece, it crystallizes in the 20th century. In amongst, you know, John, you know, those people are named John Jackson, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, and those are like the OGs of the modern Kemetic community. I'm saying, where they're just kind of taking these ideas to some extent. Now, granted, I'm sure there's a bunch of other people too. There's another guy whose name I can never pronounce. He's actually on YouTube quite a bit, an super OG. You know what I'm saying? There are other people that are more on the spiritual side, but from a historical side, you see a lot of those things fueling the modern day Kemetic community. So, you know, I said that to say, and there's more that could be said about it, but I don't think that there's like one single guy that would say, hey, this guy right here, you know, founded, you know, modern Kemeticism. It's really kind of like a swelling or crystallization of different factors, some of which go back to the 19th century.
And what's funny, you actually have a white Kemetic community as well. That's separate, sure. Like just absolutely. Completely white. A lot of them who are part of the LGBT community have their own Kemetic worldview as well. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, you got varying Kemetic philosophies and worldviews that never really overlap, but exist separately.
You know, funny. It's funny. We should be talking about this. I think it was just like last night or maybe the night before. Me and my wife were just, you know, up late, you know, watching TV. And there's that reality show with I think it's 2 Chainz, I believe, you know what I'm saying, where he's like testing out different business ideas or something like that he's got going on. And there was this lady on there, look crazy as all get out, where she's basically selling water, and she's got like this thing where you put crystals in the water, and because of the vibrations, it, you know, does something to the water to make it more healthy for you, and blah 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 blah. As soon as you start talking about vibration and the crystals, I was like, you know what, I bet she's about to say something about, you know, Kemet. Lo and behold, like just a few seconds later, I think she actually says Kemet, as a matter of fact, or something Kemetic, something like that, you know. But it was, and she was like a straight up, you know, white lady or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, to your point, there's a very, I mean, actually, it's a pretty sizable Kemetic community. It's not like a small thing. It's still like, a pretty popular thing.
Yeah.
Subculture, if you will, among Europeans. So yeah, that was a great question. Great question. Yep. Thanks for the info. Cool. So, how many nuns would a woodchuck chuck? If
chuck nuns.
Nunchuck could chuck nuns. That's a great question. I have no. The answer is 12.
Wow, that's amazing.
MJ Jackson said Profane Egyptology is a good book that Dr. Mason recommended. It's pretty expensive, but it documents the question that is being asked. George GM James Stolen Legacy. Oh yeah, definitely. That's another popular book, for sure. So just certain things like that Jabari would say, like this notion that Kemet is the general, so to speak, of all African religions and society that influence everybody else. I mean, stuff like that. Like there's this overarching Kemetic influence across the continent. People allude to things like that. That comes out of exactly what MJ is talking about, that kind of stolen legacy kind of vibe. So, yeah, man. So, we good or what you
think? Yeah, we're good.
Cool. Sounds good. So we're gonna be back again. We'll keep everybody updated as to we will be on BK Apologist channel, but as far as when, we'll definitely let people know what's going on, man.
Look out for the flyer. Come soon.
Yep, stay tuned, man. So anyway, love y'all, man. As I always say, love God, love people, and take care of the things that God blesses you with. So that's it. Peace.